Welcome in everyone on the tube side. Alrighty, let's get this show on the road. Tap the screen. Let's get up to 5K likes. Let's get up to 5K likes as soon as possible. Welcome in everybody. I don't know who that is. Nanners. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, theys, thems, and MAGA. Welcome to the live. Welcome to the live. Like I said, I hope you guys are having a fantastic Saturday afternoon. We've confirmed it's afternoon. Ooh, I look tired. And we're going to run this topic. We're going to run this topic and see what conversations we can get going today. I know what carbon is. Of course, I know what carbon is. We're going to see what conversations we can get going today. Mentioned enough before that we are going to do more of a push towards having broader conversations on both sides of the political spectrum. And the reason why I want to do that is because there's nonsense on both, right? And my leaning towards one doesn't negate the acknowledgement of said nonsense. And it's good to clarify all of it from any points. And regardless if you're a conservative, if you're a liberal, I think there's a lot of misinformation that can be cleared up on both sides. I think there's a lot of education, obviously, that can happen on both sides. So my goal is now to answer to all sides of the political spectrum to the best of my ability. And what we don't know, we'll figure out together, right? So I am a progressive. I voted for the first time in 2024. I voted for Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, obviously because I believe that she was the better candidate and she had the better policies. And she wasn't a walking pack of crap. So that's the way that I lean. But even going forward in our local elections, I did the same on the left side of the aisle. And I have my reasons for that. But other people did not so much so. And there's people who may be conflicted on where's the value that I see in Kamala Harris? Where's the value I see having the positions that I hold? And I'm here to answer all of those questions. I'm also here to answer questions about MAGA. I think there's a lot of Trump supporters in general that aren't the most familiar with their own president. Don't get me started on that and how ridiculous I think that is. But hey, this is an educational space. We're here to have those chats today. Thank you guys for tapping up. Almost at 5K. Keep doing those things. Keep doing those things. But if you had a question that you wanted to ask about our political process, about your local elections, about any misconceptions, concerns that you had, current events, you may request up in the box. Anyone and everybody on either side of the aisle is the demographic of people that I want to speak to today. If you're over on the Tube side, welcome in, Tube. I hope you guys hit that like button. Make sure you hit that like button. You may call in the number on the screen, which is going to be 737-295-5321. Let me double check and make sure this number is working. Yes, it's connected. That is 737-295-5321. How do we get back together as a country? I feel like the answer to that is simple. It's really simple. It's not. Oh, let me get my backup in here. It's not simple. It really is, but it isn't. And what I mean by that is the answer is we can get back to being together as a country when we get back to minding our business. And I'll elaborate on that. In a moment. Looks like we have our first guest. Like I said, guys, continue to tap the screen, do all the good things. And let's get this conversation started. Oh, he left or disconnected. I'm not sure what happened. Or is that him again? I think he disconnected. Let's get him back up here. American Advocate, got a question for me?
Yeah. Yes, my question is, why do you support like the Democrats' open borders?
I don't support the Democrats and open borders.
Yeah, but they opened the border up, and 21 million people came over the thing.
Well, that would be a misconception, right? How exactly did the Democrats do that?
Yeah, so all of what happened is you saw the videos right on YouTube, Instagram. A lot of sources were saying that there was videos of people rushing at the border, destroying the wall. It's not good.
Okay. Would videos of people rushing the border imply that the president of the United States opened it?
Well, it's pretty obvious. I mean, the border has always been Democrats presidents usually struggle to handle the border properly. Obama didn't do it. Biden was horrible.
Okay. You know there's the same videos between the years of 2017 and 2021. I'm not sure what's happening with your mic. Like, sounds like your phone is bouncing around in a washing machine. If you can try and tone that down, I would appreciate it. So you can find the very same videos of during the Trump administration of people coming to the border, right? The argument wouldn't be, oh, a video of someone coming to the border shows that the border was open. The argument would be what happened when they got there. Did they go through the legal processes? Which they did, by and large, under the Biden administration. We can't account for people who snuck in past border security and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, by the person in the comments, there was so much videos, a lot, lizard board, whatever your name is. There's a lot of videos, port of entry, border, same thing. But yeah, to your point,
Port of entry is legal.
yeah, but they were like just charging at it. I mean, and it was a huge invasion.
They were what?
Well, they were like charging at it, you know, like the people.
Charge.
Because it was an invasion. Let's be honest.
Undocumented migrants were charging at our ports of entry and border patrol agents.
Yeah, I mean, it was hundreds of thousands of
Like
people.
battle cry, Lord of the Rings, wartime charging.
Yes, well, there was people running, hundreds of thousands of people running, you know, trying to get into the country, you know, getaways, you know, people climbing over the wall, doing all sorts of things, various numbers of things, actually, numerous.
Okay. Again, with the amount of people charging at, allegedly, climbing the southern border, be any indication of a president's policies on said border?
Yeah, so just the thing is, like,
Okay,
you know,
so now I'm going to ask you, if you can, to provide me a source, a claim, a policy on what Biden did to open said border.
well, I mean, it wasn't a policy, it was just more of like an action.
So a directive, okay. What policy would that be? What directive? What action?
Well, I'm not sure, but I mean, it was clearly, you know, just weak leadership, I would
If
say.
you're not sure, then how can you say that then with your full chest if you're not sure?
Well, because you could clearly see him as weak leadership. I mean,
Okay,
Democrats
so
have
again,
always
you
been
keep saying clearly, you keep saying these things for certainty. Then if you can clearly and for certain say these things, then you clearly and for certain would have validation, evidence of the things that you're talking about. And you just said you're not sure. So why are you so confident in things that you're not sure about?
yeah, so I'm pretty sure, actually. I mean, I look at the sources, you know, Daily Wire,
What
New York
sources?
Post,
The
you know,
Daily Wire and the New York Post.
yeah, and Newsmax.
And
you know,
these
Candace
sources
Owens.
said that Biden opened the border.
I mean, yeah, they basically said that.
I know they said that. But again, I'm still waiting on the day where one of those outlets points to an actual policy or directive that did such.
Well, I mean, I can't point out like a specific policy, but I mean,
Well, that would be the problem with your claim then. If you're going to come up on a panel and say that he did this for certainty, then you would be able to substantiate it, which you cannot.
sorry, but there's one thing. It's bad, like, you know, Biden stopped the border being built.
And you do talking about border wall, yeah.
Yeah, Danielle in the comments. I actually was on 4 Lives yesterday when all of them never lost.
I don't know
But
why. I don't know
anyways.
why you're talking about the comments. Give me a second, guys. 92 people in here. Let's get the likes up to 15K. Tap the screen like you want to be here. Show the algorithm all the good things. Those of you who are my fan club team members, we have 2 items left in the gift gallery. If I'm not mistaken, 2 items left in the gift gallery to knock out for the rest of the week. If you click on the top left corner of my name, you will see those options available. Would greatly appreciate if we clear that. Thank you so much. Make sure you're sending your daily heart me's. Share out the live to your friends and family. Repost it. Pet ops and everything else. Jesus Lord, this mic. Continue to do all the good things. And if you are a Trump supporter or a liberal or whatnot, and you have any questions about anything cited here or anything else, request up in the box or call in the number on screen. Thank you very much.
God bless you.
W's, Mel. Thank you so much for clearing the hearts here. All right, Advocate. So, again, every single Trump supporter who says that Biden opened the border that I've spoken to in over the last year can never substantiate how. So I don't know why we keep going back in this like circle, this merry-go-round with you guys about this claim, despite no evidence supporting that. Your sole, the basis for the most part of this claim comes from the fact that we had record number encounters. Everyone's aware of the record number encounters, and we are aware, or we should be, of the reasons why. So why do you guys keep saying that Biden opened it? Just based off the fact that the destabilization of the world via the pandemic led to a lot of people coming here for security.
Well, I mean, what I would say, about that, I'm not even like a Trump supporter, I voted for him, but I'm like, I used to be a Democrat, and I'm like a neoliberal. But yeah, so to your point, what you're asking is that, I think it's just, correlation and causation. I mean, you see it's pretty obvious, that when Biden
You
got
still
in,
haven't made
millions of
you
people.
still haven't made the correlation. Your correlation
Well,
is Biden.
Well, Biden gets in. 17 million people are, at the border. So, and there were a lot of people got in. And there was
17
buses of
million people? I'm sorry, where did that number come from?
Well, there was people in like gyms and school and abandoned schools being in. Like New York City did that.
And
They were
ask you
building
about where
hotels.
people were. I asked you where the 17 million number came from.
Well, I mean, it's a range. It's like 50 million to 21 million. So, I mean, that's what I've heard.
That range isn't correct. Nor is it
Well, I
even
mean, that's
substantiated by DHS or CBP, I should say, themselves. The number is literally 10.2 to 10.8 million encounters specifically.
Well, I mean, there was a bunch, but I'm telling you, it was like really disturbing, and that's why the Democrats lost. Because
How was it disturbing? What made it disturbing?
Well, because you saw people that were like trying to like climb over the wall and get over the fence and all
Did
the
you
barbed
know the
wire.
majority of people who came to this country and tried to claim asylum were turned away?
Well, I mean, my parents are like immigrants from Turkey, but they came here the right way.
Did you know that the majority of people who came to this country and tried to claim asylum were turned away?
Well, didn't necessarily know that.
So it sounds like we were doing our jobs, right?
Well, they were doing their jobs, but there was such a huge influx. It was really bad, and it was I mean, every day it was on the news. I mean, I understand this happened under Trump too, but
Well,
happened every day on the news.
That's actually a great point that you brought up. Biden is not Biden. Obama is often complimented as the deporter in chief. Many Republicans respect him for the amount of encounters and whatnot that we saw being record lows under his administration. Fast forward to the Trump administration, and next thing you know, he's calling emergency after emergency at the southern border. So I would say, if you want to make the correlation and causation argument, if the border was handled under the Obama administration that you now all compliment him for, then why is it that it was unhandled under the Trump administration? And then we can directly look at Biden's administration and pinpoint the pandemic being the reason for encounters being so high. See the difference there? Obama had a good border, handed off to Trump. Next thing you know, we have emergency after emergency.
Yeah, so ultimately speaking, I
don't
would just
know
say that
what that sound was, but it made me uncomfortable. I don't even remember what his question was. I don't remember what his question was. Does anyone remember what his question was exactly? Anyway, if you are a liberal or MAGA and you have a question about anything, you may request up in the box, and I will answer it to the best of my ability. If you're on the tube side, you may call in the number on screen, 737-295-5321. That's 737-295-5321. Yes, once again, one of the things I've done that the average Trump supporter hasn't is I actually went back and I looked at every single executive order that Biden passed or executed, I should say. Every single one. I have a full list of it on my phone. And I have yet to find the one that said open it up. I have yet to find the one that said don't vet people. I have yet to find the one that says anything that Trump supporters claim. I have yet to find the one designating Kamala Harris as the border czar. So I'm just very confused as to how these things get spread around so much when they can't even substantiate it on what's on the books. Federalregister.gov is where you guys can go, and they keep a record of all the executive orders that's passed under every administration. That's where you can look them all up. You can literally look up every single one on federalregister.gov. Any cases, thank you for the follow, Melissa. Appreciate you. Thank you guys for knocking out that gift goal. Let me go ahead and reset it here. Do the roses. We're going to do these little heart puffs. I'm in a chill mood today. I'm not arguing with nobody today. I say that every time, then the right guest comes up here and pisses me off. Continue to tap the screen, guys. Let's get the likes up. What are y'all doing today? Where are my super tappers at? Let's get the likes up. Where are my super tappers at? Again, getting the request if you have a question about anything going on, current news, past news, Kamala, Biden, Trump. You're the people I want to talk to. Those are the questions that I want to answer. Today, I'm going to be speaking to everybody. Because another thing and I know I do this, when we as creators, we host our lives and we're trying to talk to MAGA, we're trying to fish for MAGA. They've been dry as hell lately. You can't really find a bunch of them, at least enough of them with the stomach to actually get up in the request. And B, it kind of sucks sometimes too, because I know a lot of people on our side of the aisle could be in the comments. Not only do they have useful information to provide to the conversation, but they could also have legitimate questions, and sometimes they get left out because we're so focused looking for Trump supporters. So the whole thing why I'm doing this live and why I like this live is it gives everyone a chance. The problem I do have, and you guys do this all the time, I've screamed about this for a bit, is every single time I host lives like this, I don't get so much of those people, but then every single time I'm trying to talk to MAGA, all of you guys pop out of nowhere, and I'm like, today's not the day. Fact said I have a question. What was his question? Candy corn, yes or no? I like candy corn. I don't know what else to tell you. It's not one of those candies that I'm just going to be eating all the time. I'm not crazy about candy corn, but I don't mind candy corn. I don't see the frustration with candy corn.
I am from Syria, need help.
Good
Please,
luck to
5 minutes. Please.
Good luck
5
to you.
minutes.
Yeah, I don't see the issue with candy corn personally. I don't buy it, but I'll eat it. Yeah, that's what I would say. I don't buy it, but I've seen it. I've eaten it. I know when I was a kid, I thought it was like the bee's knees. I thought it was the bee's knees when I was a kid. But can I come back? Dude, you did a weird fart or burp in my mic. Like, you're not coming back. You're not coming back. Thank you guys for knocking out this goal. Why did it reset? I didn't set that. Let me do it again. There we go. So I just set it to the GGs. The honey candy corn is extremely addictive. I'm sorry, the what? What is honey candy corn? Hold on. What is... I think you and Nemo would do great lives. Who's Nemo? There's a few Nemos. I know a guy Nemo, and then I know a woman Nemo. I think that's her pronouns. Honey candy corn. Are we just talking about candy corn with real honey in it? Caramel apple candy corn. Now y'all are doing too much. I think y'all are doing a little bit too much now. It's getting a little weird. Chocolate candy corn. Chocolate candy corn. I don't like the sound of that. I would never eat that. Thank you guys for knocking out that gift goal. I'm going to go ahead and put it up to these finger hearts. Continue to tap the screen. Do all the good things. It's incredible. Sorry, bro. My fault. What are you talking about, Facts? Some things need to be left alone. Exactly. You know what I was just talking about the other day? Where I'm going to start agreeing with GOP people. This is going to be one of the few things where I start to agree with GOP people. We're making far too much. We're using far too many things to make milk with, okay? There needs to be a line with what we milk, okay? Y'all take every nut and try to make it a milk. The shit is weird. Not all of those things taste good. All right. Soy made sense. Almonds, I hate almond milk, but whatever. It's popular with a lot of people. Coconut milk made sense. We've been using coconut, more concentrated coconut milk for years. Now we make it as a pourable milk in cereal. Not my favorite, personally, unless it's for specific things, but whatever. You can do it. Rice milk. How many people have had rice milk? And just in case, let me remind everyone that this is a political live. So if you have a question, any political question, whatever side of the aisle you're on, you request up in the box or call the number on screen. But how many of you guys have actually had rice milk? Horchata makes sense, but like straight rice milk is, first off, it can't be watery. That's why I don't like almond milk. Watery milk is not milk. That's just water with a splash. It's like Gatorade milk. I don't know. Watery milk is nasty. That's why my favorites are going to be soy, oat, although they make some very watery oat milks. Pea protein milk is really good. And cashew. I would say cashew is my, if I wasn't so hooked on soy, I would say cashew is my second favorite. I drink unsweetened soy and almond milk. Rice milk is amazing in Japan. Could be. It's made of water. Not sure why they call it all milk. Well, we know why they call it milk. But yeah, just don't make it watery. If you're going to call it a milk alternative, a milk substitute, don't make it watery. It's as simple as that. Almond milk in my golden grams would be a crime. What milk do you use? I'm curious. I make my own cashew milk. Hi, Yelly. Yeah. And it's very easy to make milk as well. I grew up in a household where we made some milk sometimes, but it was like, most of the time we bought Silk. Chocolate almond milk is to die for. You couldn't be more wrong. I'm just biased against almond milk. I have, like, in my fridge. So, day before Christmas, I went out like 2 or 3 times to make sure I had all my groceries. And I ordered things out for some stuff that I missed. And somehow, some way, I still forgot milk. And I needed it for a chai I was making. So I ran to the gas station next to me. And I picked up the bottled Silk vanilla almond milk. And I was reminded how much I hate that shit. I don't know how you guys drink that. It's so... I don't like the flavor of it at all. Yeah, soy milk's been a thing. Soy milk is superior. I don't care what anyone says. We had that wave where freaking people fear-mongered folks into believing that once you drink soy, you lose your manlyhood and crap and you start growing titties. We had that phase, and that's where almond milk and everything started to like become prominent. But soy milk is still the superior milk, especially if we're talking about protein content. 6,000%. Oat milk is the best in coffee. Oat milk is not bad. Oat milk is definitely not bad. I've enjoyed a lot more oat milks compared to other ones. I will say that. Ripple pea milk is good. Ripple pea milk is very good. But it's all about, especially for what we're talking about, using it in cereal. I don't know how anyone does. Oh, whoops. Let me get my backup back in here. I don't know how anyone does any other one in cereal specifically. If you're baking with almond milk, it's like, okay, cool. But if you're just straight drinking it or using it for cereal, that shit is gross. Sorry, I don't know what else to tell y'all. That shit is gross. I said what I said. But you guys are more than entitled to your wrong opinions. You're more than entitled to your wrong opinions. Cashews, is regular milk bad? I don't consume dairy milk, not like that. First off, the first time, because I didn't grow up, I'm not vegan anymore, but I grew up vegan. In the first couple of years of my life, I wasn't. Then my stepdad, he was. So we spent a good bit of time vegan. And then now I eat meat now, but I still don't care for dairy. And the first time I remember going over to a family member's house, they poured a cup of milk for us to eat with some cookies, which is an interesting thing to do in white households, but whatever. They poured a cup of milk with cookies. And I remember bringing the milk to my mouth and smelling it. The smell of cow milk is gross. Gross. It smells like exactly what it is. Nipple milk. It smells like hairy cow titty nipples. It's fucking disgusting. I don't know how y'all do that shit. I was like, whoa! I wanted to throw the fuck up. That shit smells terrible. I strongly suggest those of you who like consume milk, maybe you just got used to the smell. I don't know. Is that what it is? Maybe y'all got used to the smell. Take a cup of milk, give it a good sniff, and if you can drink that shit after that, you eat ass. And I'm not even judging you. I'm not even judging you. Get down how you get down. But you can put your full face in the ass and you can enjoy your time. I wish you the best of luck. I wish you the best of luck. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. Hi, Sean. In fact, if you do happen to consume backsides, I understand that more than people who drink cow milk. Real shit. I understand that more than people who drink cow milk. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to tell y'all. I'm sorry. Oh. Anyways, I see a couple of gray outs in the chat. Make sure you send your heart me's. Gray out is GOP. How many times do I have to go over this with y'all? Gray out is GOP. Don't be grayed out. Don't be grayed out. Send your heart me's today. But no. W's in the chat to... This was actually from earlier, but fuck it. We'll count it. For Joe... I'm just going to say your initials. JF for the $20 PayPal. Heard you on Santana's live with that Florida college kid. Kudos. Yeah, that was something. That was something. W's in the chat for JF. W's in the chat for JF. I appreciate your support. Guys, if you want to support the platform, the links are available in the bio or the description of my Tube video. I'm sure one of my mods is going to put that link down there on the Tube side. I appreciate y'all. Hector Talks with 2 R's. Hector Talks with 2 R's and Cash App and Venmo. PayPal, Hector Pal with 2 O's and 2 R's. I was on Santana's live earlier for a little bit, and he had a guest up there from Florida, and he's one of those kids who... I've been coming across a ton of people that always say, I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle. And I'm like, when you ask them more questions about economic policy, social programs, foreign security, foreign relations, whatever, the answers are always right-leaning. They're always conservative leaning. That's why I say, for the most part, people who say that they're independent or people who say they're in the middle, they're just more so conservative, but they don't want to fully say it because they know it looks really bad right now. But he was up there and he was just doing all these different things. We talked about his local race, which, like I said, I've spoken on. Florida governor candidates, I think David Jolly is one of the people I was looking at. I'm not in Florida. I'm saying I've been telling people to look at him because he was a Trump supporter up until 2017, 2018. Couple things with the farmers, other policies. January 6th, inevitably he left the party and now he's a full-blown Democrat, which I find fascinating. But yeah, there's so many people. Just come out and say what you are. If you are conservative, you're conservative. If you're not, you're not. Like, I don't know why we have to hide in this middle thing. So W's in the chat to Facts for the $15 Venmo. What about Biden? Yes, every single conversation we have about this administration, we always go back to Biden, and it'll never cease to amaze me. Never cease to amaze me. W's in the chat to Facts. W's in the chat to Facts. Appreciate you guys' support. All right, hold up on this conversation. Chad, you got a question for me?
God bless you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Twister, for the Santa gift. Appreciate you.
Your thing says that you're a progressive, right? Were you always a progressive?
I guess yes, I would say. I took a firm stance on politics last year during the 2024 election, and all the sentiments that I hold now were what I got onto at that time. So yes, if we're talking about that time period. If we're saying before I voted, no, I actually was MAGA.
Oh, so you're not. So like, well, I think based off of what you just said, our ideas of what progressive is might be completely different.
Could be. What are your ideas of what progressive looks like?
I would say like at bare minimum being like anti-capitalist, anti-imperialism, anti-colonialism, wanting different, all the isms and phobia, whether it be racism, sexism, misogynoir, homophobia, transphobia, colorism, texturism, featurism, all those things to be dismantled. I think that's just minimum before we get into the intersectionality of it and, class consciousness and class antagonism and understanding of the power dynamic between and the the worker and the boss, the bourgeoisie and the
Yeah,
proletariat.
I mean, I would
That's
say
for me.
quite a bit of those would even be shared with centrists outside of the capitalism part. Obviously, centrists love capitalism. I'm not a fan of capitalism. I will utilize it. We don't have a choice. But yeah,
I say anti-capitalism, not pro-capitalism.
right. That's what I'm saying. So I would say some of the groups that you mentioned would be shared with centrists. Like with the many centrists, yeah, racism is bad. This is bad. They don't fully understand it or how to dismantle it. But then the big standstill, I guess, where I think there's a huge divide amongst people on the left would be when it comes to capitalism.
God bless
I think
you.
there's still a heavy debate on whether it's necessary or not in that party.
I would say, for me, centrists are right wing. They're not. There's no such thing as a centrist, especially in the American context, because America is a very very far right country. I wouldn't consider being a centrist to be um uh to be like there's no middle ground in America, at least, especially if we're talking about in the Trump administration.
I don't think America would be far right per se. We are absolutely center right leaning for certain.
Okay, center right. Yeah,
Um,
I can give you center right. Yeah.
yeah, are we going far right? Yeah, absolutely. Under this administration, 6,000%. But there's a lot of people that are still center. I think that's reflected in our non-voting populace specifically.
I think, but why do you think people don't vote? I would say people don't vote because of, I would say, lack of knowledge and lack of political education. One, and then I would say there's this um, idea, and I wouldn't even necessarily say that this is a wrong idea, that um, we live in a society where the rich and corporate elites are the ones who control the country, and if you don't um, exist within that class, you really don't have much of a say in what goes on in this country. Because even when we talk about voting, right, the Democratic Party right now is at its lowest approval rating in the party's history, and I would say that's large in part because they do not want to meet their voter constituents' needs or wants in the what they want the party to go. Whereas the right, all they continue to blame immigrants, blame black people, queer people, all that type shit to pass their fascist white supremacist agenda.
Yes and no. Yes and no to that. I have a hot take about it actually. But did you vote?
No, go ahead. I'm listening. You said what?
Did you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Assuming third party.
Yeah, I would never vote for. I mean, I'm only 25, so I've only been eligible to vote for the 2020 election and the 2024 election. And I would say, I don't, I'm, I've moved further to the left to the point I don't really see the voting for a Democrat or a Republican ever in my lifetime. Maybe if AOC runs, maybe that's a big maybe, but you know.
Fascinating. Okay. So what I was gonna say is with my hot take, you made a comment about basically there's the bourgeoisie and the elites, whatnot, and then everyone else is just cannon fodder. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I personally have a different take. I believe that not enough of us have actually participated in our political process to deem it as useless just yet. I think when we look at the numbers throughout history, we don't simply have even I would say an 70, 80% that have been enough to
Wait, repeat that
say,
again. Hold on, repeat that again, brother. Say that again, brother. Say it again.
yeah, I'm of the firm belief that not enough people have actually participated in our political process to consider it useless and damned. I think if we got more than enough people actually involved, and if we actually held our representatives accountable, we held our feet to the fire, we can see drastic change in the U.S. towards the policies that we want. For the most part, I think we turn up for elections, and then we're
God bless
awfully,
you.
the large majority of us are awfully quiet in the meantime, between time. So what I advocate for
Okay, that's
is people
not a
who are
crazy take.
louder and a lot more vocal and a lot more active in those processes in watching the politicians that we elect their every move, and ensuring that they're doing what's necessary. And then we threaten them with primaries. We threaten them with voting them out. Too many of them get elected and then they get comfortable. And that in part is because of us. I'm not saying that money in politics and whatnot is not an issue, but I think we would be amazed to see what could take place if we were actually putting our foot on their necks.
Okay, that's not a crazy take. Like I don't think what you said is unreasonable at all. About the primary part, right? I do think that when you do threaten people in the Democratic Party leadership with primaries, I think what we've seen is that they double down. And recently, I guess one of the New York City council, if I'm not mistaken, Che Ase, he was going to try to primary Hakeem Jeffries, and people within that area said no, he shouldn't do that. And it's just like somebody like Hakeem Jeffries. I mean, he needs to go. His
He's
time
trash. He's absolutely
is coming down.
garbage. Yeah.
It's, yeah, same with what's his name, Chuck Schumer as well. So
I'm
I
actually not
think
the most familiar with the reasons behind that. I think we saw the likes of Bernie and AOC even defend Hakeem Jeffries' position. I don't remember why, but that to me was an indicator that he was. There was a good reason for it. I'm trying to remember what it was. Let me see. Not sure if you recall what it was. I think that surprised a lot of people, but I don't think in any way, shape, or form that made AOC or Bernie Sanders a lesser person or not a great pick. There's a vision and support for Xi mostly coming from Dizani.
DSA, they're being DSA New York.
I'm curious. Oh, thank you. W's in the chat to Feisty for the $20 Venmo. I love cow juice and I don't eat ass. I could have done without that last part. W's in the chat. W's in the chat to Feisty. W's in the chat to Feisty. I appreciate your support. Guys, this puts us over a third of our goal, 55 and 150. If you want to support the platform, you may do so with the links in the bio, or you may send a super chat over on the tube side. Give me his name again. I always forget how to spell this.
Che Ase.
I'm not gonna spell that right.
CHIOSSE.
CHI. Wait, that can't be right. No, that's not it. God damn it. Hold on. Is it Shay? Like...
No, it's CHI space OSSE.
CHIOSE. Curious ants. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to find the specific reasoning as to why he didn't gain a good bit of support. Yeah, he saw he dropped out on the 5th. He didn't even get backing from Democratic Socialists, including Zoran. See, there's got to be more to this. There's got to be more to this.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics of it, but it's a little fishy why he wasn't getting any support from even DSA members. But I think all in all, I think the Democratic Party needs a full retooling, which I don't believe is ever possible because the Democratic Party will throw progressives and throw the left under the bus by any means necessary.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, because we have Zoran specifically advocated against endorsing him. Same with ALC. What was the reasoning again? W's in the Doug Raid. Appreciate you guys. W's in the chat to the Doug Raiders. Thank you guys so much for being here. W's to you guys. If you not, hit that follow button in the top left corner. We go live randomly throughout the week and every single Saturday at 3 p.m. CST. Welcome to the live. I'm a progressive. Ask me questions, whether you're left or right. We simply just sit here for people to call in and request up and try to clarify some things about the parties. Thank y'all for the follows. W. And my animation didn't work, of course. Of course it didn't. What's going on, Fax?
Hector, my friend, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. Chad, fellow progressive here.
God bless you.
Hello.
If I could ask just a couple of questions, I'm just curious about something. that
W
you said.
Andy for the puffs. Let's go. Sorry, go
You
ahead.
talking about me, facts?
Yeah, is that cool?
Okay, go ahead.
Um,
Yeah, fine, yeah.
So, I would challenge your thinking a little bit that there's no moderates because I think the bulk of the party, I think I would agree with Hector, were center right, but the moderates who serve in government on both sides, the conservatives and the liberal moderates, or I should say the moderates, the Democratic moderates, the Republican moderates, they're the ones that are the true lawmakers. We often hear about I hate the term extreme left. We also hear about prominent voices on the left to get more attention. And then the far extreme right in Congress, the MAGA, the loudmouths on the right, they get a lot of attention. But there's a lot of people that are there to serve. They're status quo. They're kind of boring politically. They're not my cup of tea politically. But there's a lot of them. So I would be careful to say that unless you're progressive, you're conservative, which I would agree with from a methodology perspective, but they're moderate politically. You understand what I'm saying?
So facts. My question would be is like, who in the Democratic Party right now is far left?
God bless you.
I don't agree with the determination. I don't like the correlation between the far left and the far right. I would say there are progressives within the party that I
God bless
support.
you.
And we'll see. I'm a Bernie guy too, so I believe in their progressive politics. But I don't look at the far left who serve in government, at least in the federal government.
Okay. That's what we can agree on. But yeah, I'm in agreement with the fact that I wouldn't ever put the far left and the far right anywhere near in the same. There's no comparison between the two. The far right wants a white supremacist ethno state with sanctioned trad wives, whereas the left wants the eradication of like every system of oppression. So I don't think we could ever compare the two.
I wasn't saying compare necessarily. Just to clarify, I don't know if there is a far left in our federal government.
Yeah.
No, there isn't. Yeah, I agree with you. There isn't.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, I mean,
Not even DSA. DSA is liberal. They're
right. I
liberals
mean,
for the most part.
you're radical on the left if you want health care for everyone, right?
Literally.
That's how
Yeah. Well,
that's how pitiful it's become.
you saying that's how the media portrays it?
Well, that's how the conservative media portrays it.
I would say CNN and MSNBC portrays that as radical as well.
Conservative media. That's exactly my point.
Yeah, CNN is headed by a conservative.
I agree. I agree with you. I agree that CNN and MSNBC is I would consider that conservative.
Yeah,
And
I mean they
Fox
lean a
News
little bit
liberals.
left. They lean a little bit left because of the topics sometimes that they cover and some of their talking heads. But by and large, mainstream. Hector knows this about me. I'm not a big fan of mainstream media in general. Mainstream media, by and large, is conservative. Fox and OAN and Newsmax much being radicalized to the right. But in general, mainstream media is conservative.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
Yeah, and then something else. Like I'm curious about. I know you're early in your voting game, and please, understand that I'm appreciative of you being involved. In fact, Hector and I just did a live a couple weeks ago on non-voters, so I appreciate you participating. But I would be careful to say that, we have to. This is my concern with people on the left, that we become too committed to looking for perfection in a candidate. I look at the Democratic Party as public transportation. Like it's going to get me further down the road, closer to what I want, and then I'm willing to walk the rest of the way and carry more progressives along with me. So there's a thing in politics oftentimes it's referred to as harm reduction. So if you're looking at a federal election, and although you might not align necessarily, obviously in your case with the right, you're not a fan of the Democratic Party, the traditional party, but is your vote potentially by not voting for one or two major candidates going to end up doing more harm? Case in point, 90 million people didn't vote. Donald Trump got reelected.
God bless you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So to your point, right? When it comes to the numbers, right? I think the fact that more people stayed home is indicative of how incompetent the Dems are, not the fact that people are not enthused um, or don't want to participate in the political process. Because
Yes and no.
you could argue now this is a local this is the example I'm about to provide is a local election. Um, but the 2020 election, the main reason why Biden won was because there was a lot more people who didn't vote who voted. But then in 2024, those same people stayed
God
at
bless
home.
you.
And you could argue that that is because the Democratic Party doesn't really give you, like, I would say now, especially saying Trump bad, that's not enough.
But isn't that
It's just not
isn't
enough.
that a cause? I agree with you actually, but isn't that a cause for concern? Like when we go back to 2020 and we saw the amount of people, including people who never voted before, turn out for Biden. It was because of just how a badly Trump was doing, or better yet, just a worldwide pandemic and its handling is what was a driving motivator for people to get politically involved. I don't think it should have taken a pandemic for Biden to have the most recorded votes in history. Personally, I think we should be seeing that more frequently without the fear of a pandemic's handling. So after that threat was gone, after that catalyst, people got comfy again. And I think this is one of the issues that we can see with Democrats across the country, specifically here in Texas. I can speak to this place. These folks don't want to move for just anything. And then it's costing us that complacency, that, what's the word?
Apathy.
Apathy. Thank you.
Yeah, apathy.
It's I think it's killing us. We need more people to realize that every single election matters just as much as the last, regardless of who's on the ballot, in my opinion. I don't think Trump should scare anyone to come to the polls.
Yeah, but I agree with you that Trump shouldn't scare anybody to come to the polls. But at the same time, I think across the board, especially among
Thank you guys for
the more
gifts.
moderate wing of the party, they just run on Trump bad. And it's like, even with how fascist Trump is and the fact that we might not have an election in 2028, you have to have a robust agenda that is the opposite of just keeping the status quo. Like, I feel like there's four, for me, right? Especially for national candidates, there's four objectives or four main things that they could run on. And if they did, honestly, we probably would have a 50-state sweep. If they ran on raising the minimum wage federally above 725, if they ran on Medicare for all, if they ran on,
There's no use
if they
in
ran
running.
on, if they ran on
God bless you.
arms embargo to if they ran on arms embargo to Israel, and they ran on those main three. If they ran on those three things, honestly, we would have a 50-state sweep.
I don't agree. I think you might pick up some swing states, but not 50 states. That wouldn't be enough.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
fair
think we're
enough.
ignoring.
I was being a little facetious with the 50 states, but definitely some of the swing states. Because to lose all 7 swing states and the popular vote for the first time in 20 years, that's unacceptable.
Yeah, the arms embargo to Israel thing, as much as many of us would love that, is a pipe dream. Not to mention, and this is where a lot of people don't like my opinion on this. I don't think it's a good idea to just run off of what everyone wants off the bat versus seeing the actual practicality of said policy. Like I do think healthcare for all is something that we can move towards. I do think, in part, despite the ACA's issues, that every single candidate, or Democratic candidate, who ran off of expanding the ACA and ran off of getting more people healthcare moves us closer and closer to universal. I think ultimately that is the goal. When it comes to raising the federal minimum wage, that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, specifically because of poor red states that feel like, hey, if you tell a small mom and pop shop that they got to go up by $3 more as they're struggling right now, in part because of some of the actions of this administration, that's not going to resonate well with a lot of people in those areas versus northern states versus blue states. So there's a little bit more nuance to that. And yes, I do think a lot of it would bring people to the polls. But then again, that kind of goes back to my issue of it would just bring people who don't know a lot about our political process to the polls. And while I think it will be important to get more people to vote, I also want folks to know what they're voting for.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
No,
Chad, sorry, I just
Go
if
ahead,
I could go
Fax,
back
go
to
ahead.
it's all good. I want to go back to the question that we were talking about just prior to that, that piece there about how, you know, participation is incredible. There's like 90 million people roughly that didn't vote, and I've talked to Hector about this. There's like 45 million who are both siders who are will complain about everything. I just think they're lazy. And then there's a large chunk of our population, to Hector's point, who really truly feel disenfranchised. Like they don't participate at all because they don't feel like nothing's going to get better. A lot of those people are reachable voters. And I also say the same thing about you in a way. You participate, but I trust your heart and I respect your values because I share a lot of them. But until we can get more progressives elected down ballot, we've got to almost vote for harm reduction. We really have to kind of lean in and say, which of these two major candidates, I know that my candidate's not going to win. I'm gonna support down ballot candidates. I'm gonna phone bank. I might run for a school board. I'm going to get more elected progressives down ballot. But for now, for the next probably 2 election cycles, we got to vote for harm reduction. So I'm just asking you to think about that when 2026 and 2028 come around.
So,
and the thing is, you mentioned.
go ahead.
I was gonna say he mentioned 2026, right? At least because I'm in Pennsylvania, right? My 2 senators are like, because you mentioned the harm reduction part, right? And I would say maybe a couple months ago, the term harm reduction was a little bit more reasonable for me. But I think that Trump's fascism has gotten so ugly in the first year that I don't even think the term harm reduction is even sufficient enough. Like, we need a whole retooling of the entire party. Like, it can't just be, we need this person in office because Trump bad. Like, we need the person that we're advocating for to actually stand for wholesale progressive values. Because, and I can speak for my state, my 2 senators aren't up for re-election until 2028. And my 2 senators, the Republican one is Doug McCormick, who was a J6er and was in the famous picture with Benjamin Netanyahu with Cory Booker in the corner trying to hide. And then my other senator is John Fetterman.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's why I'm talking about the primaries, though, Chad. That's why I'm talking about the primaries.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's I totally agree. That's a fundamental difference between the primaries and the general. I'm talking about working to get more progressives on the primaries, which gives us more options. But when the time comes at the general, I would just ask people to consider, until we get to the point where there's more viable progressives or DSAs, then we have to consider harm reduction. I think it's something to calculate as you're casting your vote. A lot of people didn't show up. A lot of selfish leftists didn't show up in 2024, and we got Donald Trump.
I was just going to say, and now this is may not like this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. When it comes to third party voters, the problem that I have with that mentality is that we run the risk of obviously pushing forward candidates who may not have the time or the experience or clearly the backing to get where they need to go. And those are votes that went to someone who is ultimately going to strengthen, to some degree, our progressive candidates. Every single progressive in Congress, we can look at Zohran Mamdani's win. Despite him doing that under a Trump administration, he would not have been weakened by Kamala Harris. So
Agreed.
That environment, even if it's somewhat of a standstill or seems stale, from Democrats, still would be better than an aggressive GOP establishment arguing and fighting back against some of the people that are trying to make change in Congress. And then to Fact's point, the people that we see in Congress that are leaning more towards what we actually want to see, they need more time, they need more experience, they need more coverage, backing, so on and so forth. And then we can inevitably get them to that primary. We can get them to that 2032, 2036, 2040 election. And that's what I want to see. And that's why I unapologetically vote alongside Democrats. The half decent ones at that. Let me be super duper clear. I've talked about this in depth. I think James Tallarico in Senate is going to do freaking wonders. I think Jasmine Crockett would do cool things, but let's be real. James Tallarico is looking very good right now. So that's who we need to throw our backing behind, and they are Democrats. So when I talk about voting for the party, it's not even so much for what it is right now or what it's been. It's more so what it could be with what newcomers in the party with fresh blood are trying to do to reform it. When I advocate for Democrats, it's more so for the party that I want to see.
And I would say that, because I'm only 25, I would say maybe during the 2020 election, I thought like, oh, we can reform the Democratic Party. I am of the belief now that
Thank y'all for the follows.
I would say that now I don't think you can really reform the Democratic Party, because I would say there are two main things.
Sorry.
There are two main things that unite the Democratic Party. If I'm taking away the more progressive ones, the squad, right? There are two main things that unite the Democratic Party and Republican Party. That is, one, maintaining the maintenance of capitalism, and two, being anti-far left. That is the one thing that the Democrats will put all differences aside and unite on that, which is why they did everything in their power to smear Zoran Mamdani, even though he's a social democrat. He's not even like a full-blown socialist or full-blown communist or anything. He's just a social democrat.
Let's be clear. The Democratic Party as a whole didn't necessarily smear Mamdani. Yes, there were very many local Democrats who made their stupid posts about experience and this and that and backed Cuomo, and every last one of them should be investigated as far as I'm concerned. But we're talking about the party as a whole. It was more so their silence, if anything, that can be criticized, but they never necessarily shunned him. We saw Kathy Hochul say, hey, we may disagree on some things, but he's the best candidate. We saw several other people in the party. Hakeem Jeffries last minute gave his endorsement. So, or was it Booker?
I would agree with that. Lack of loud support is what I think is what we didn't see. I didn't hear a lot of smearing, just not enough loud support. Sadly.
And then I'll say, while I don't agree with that, and I think it's a negative, I think once, like Zoran Mamdani now, being in New York, being in that seat a year or two from now, if we see his policies implemented properly and we start to see the change, that's going to shift the party. What we need to get the Democratic Party to the point of is where they realize that more people are wanting what the newer progressive candidates are advocating for, are implementing, are doing, and then they'll realize that their ways are useless. They'll realize that their ways will continue to cause us to lose elections. Because at the end of the day, if we can't get them to do what we want on their moral compasses, we can do it to protect their seats. So I don't think this is going to come from expecting people to just pop up and be amazing and love everyone. I think we're going to have to force them to some degree to be more progressive. That's what our votes are for. That's what our money is for.
But that now that's where I would say you can't force you can't really force corporate Dems to be progressive, because they, at the end of the day, have backing from corporations. So the most you can do is advocate as much as possible for progressives, like we saw with Mamdani. When we advocate for people like him in a myriad of ways, we see that we can put people like them in office.
In New York, though.
New York City. Yeah,
New York City, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big caveat, though.
I'm not even sure if he would have won in a place like California.
I would argue that New York City is a very hard. Because according to the media, he was like, some radical socialist, and to win in the hub of capitalism.
Right, but it's easier to mobilize. It's easier to mobilize there.
I'm glad you mentioned.
No, it's easier to mobilize, but
I'm glad you mentioned in the heart of capitalism.
It's not like New York. New York's not like.
There was a poll that was released.
You said what, Hector?
There was a poll that released that showed that many of the rich white men in New York City that were more center-left leaning, who did not show up for Kamala Harris, voted for him. Now, we can talk about the racism and misogyny parts of that. I don't think that's applicable in this conversation. They voted for him because his policies looked good for them, because they more so represented them. They didn't feel as so much left out. Zohran Mamdani had a great media presence. He had, in some cases, his attacks actually benefited him. So those same people who uphold capitalism, as you said, voted for a man who voted on taxing them more. So that's what I'm talking about. It just takes the right candidate, it takes the right explanations, the right motivation to get even those same people who are quote unquote establishment to see a better way or to want something different. Trump in part won because people were tired of the status quo and wanted something different. That's what Zohran Mamdani provided those people in there who still may be socially conservative leaning.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say that the people came out for Zohran for the same reason why they came out for Trump. Trump won because,
well, I mean,
he
in
ran
the
on
surface level, like bare minimum, loosest sense, in terms of just wanting something different, yes. Obviously, they are fundamentally two vastly different policy platforms. Obviously, we know that much.
It's the Bernie Trump phenomenon, Chad. It's the same. They've talked about this. They've studied that. People that were drawn to Bernie, a lot of those people, a good percentage of Bernie voters peeled off and voted for Trump.
So you're saying, so I would just say that's a class reductionist analysis of anything, that, you know, if you run on, oh, I'm going to help the common man, then that will, I guess, mobilize people, which is, I would say that's one of the very few.
That's a fair point, but that's a fair point. That's a fair point, but exit polling saw Bernie and Trump as anti-establishment, and that's how a lot of people saw Zohran as well. So there's some elements to what you said, but also the entire anti-establishment side as well.
Somebody said people like energy, enthusiastic. People like energy, enthusiastic dem messaging has been lacking. Mamdani is attention getting. Yeah, I agree with that. I do think that. And now I think the midterms and the 2028, if we have one presidential election, I think we'll test if Trump bad works anymore. And I'm of the belief I don't think it will. And I'm sorry that you're not gonna bully me or make me feel bad because I'm not gonna vote for Gavin Newsom. I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm just.
But we see many Democrats in their local elections somewhat changing their tune. First off, there is no avoiding talking about Trump. He's the literal president of the United States, and he is terrible. So I'm not going to knock a Democrat at this current point in time, especially now that he's actually able to do everything he said he was going to do. I'm not going to knock them for focusing on Trump. But they're also balancing that message, in my personal opinion, from what I've seen. They're balancing that message pretty well with affordability and healthcare. That's the two big things that everyone's screaming out their mouth now: affordability and healthcare, because that's what resonates.
Can I jump
Yeah,
in?
it does. It does.
Yeah, go ahead, Kit.
Yeah, because Hector, we've talked about this. I voted. Hey, Facts. Hey, Steve. I voted third party in my early 20s. Also, it was after I got very jaded with the Democratic Party because of what I felt happened with Bernie. And the thing is that what took me. Sorry, my neighbor's dog. What took me from voting third party to voting with the Democrats was I realized two things. One, we live in a system that is those two parties, because realistically, let's pretend that a Green Party person or someone
God bless
in
you.
the Libertarian Party
Thank you, Sean.
did manage by some miracle to become president. They would have no one backing them in Congress because none of those people are within their party. So nothing would really happen. They would be a lame duck at best. And then two, if my other issue became with voting third party like I did, and I was very into it. I voted that way in 2016. I was communicating directly with Howie Hawkins and his VP candidate, Angela Walker, between 2022 or 2023. I really was passionate about this. This wasn't like a flyby thing because I was just mad. I was very much advocating third party voting. But I realized there's a fundamental thing that we are missing, and that's ranked choice voting. Until we have ranked choice voting for local and federal elections in every single state, no candidate within another party is going to be able to get anywhere. Now, I will still vote Pacific Green for my local elections if there's a candidate that I like. But as far as federal goes, this is a two-party game. They won't even get support if they do win. Like it's just it's nonsensical. And at the moment, what I believe is that as a leftist, my goal is harm reduction for minority communities, myself in the queer community, and my children in the disability community, my oldest child. It's all very much about harm reduction and who's not actively going to be trying to harm people in those communities. Now, you can make an argument for lip service, which I agree. I'm not going to disagree with you. I have a lot of smoke for Democrats, but it's the active harm versus like doing nothing. And I'd rather the doing nothing, or at least pretending to do something, than the active harm and dismantling of supports for people who need it. And I just wanted to give my spiel because I was a third party voter.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's one of those things where I think we're given two options. I think while I understand the sentiments of people who want to vote alongside their conscience, and that doesn't always look Democrat, I think if we go a bit past our compasses, we can see the bigger picture. And I'm a bigger picture kind of voter, which means if I have two candidates before me and not a single one of them is going to get me towards universal health care, but one of them is not running off of blank checks to Israel, one of them is not running off of stripping the rights of LGBTQ citizens, one of them is not running off of the dehumanization of immigrants, then the answer is easy for me, because I am a leftist, and that's what leftists want. Does that make sense?
And rank choice. Here, rank choice.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of emphasize that, like, if we're serious, if those of us who would vote third party if it was viable are serious, then what we're actually going to be doing is we're going to be pushing for ranked choice at a local level so it can work its way up to a federal level. Like, that is truly the first step if we want other parties in this country.
That part. Definitely have to pay a lot more closer attention to our local elections, because that's where they have the best chance of winning.
And overturn Citizens United as soon as you can.
That part, which the most establishment Democrat, Hillary Clinton, literally ran off of in 2016. We're here because of that. Separate conversation. But yeah, Chad, you had anything else?
I think I heard what Kit said, and I don't think that she said anything that was, harmful or like wrong or anything. I think when because I'm only 25, so I've only been able to vote for 2 elections, and I think the fact that the Democratic Party wasn't able to beat somebody like Donald Trump in 2024 when he ran on a more fascist, more openly xenophobic, more openly racist platform. And I understand with Biden dropping out and Kamala only having 107 days, I get that. I truly do. But I do think that it was like such a slam dunk in that, I don't understand how somebody like him could win again. Obviously, you have to factor in how how racist and sexist the country is. I'm not negating that, but it's either, I think it's 2 explanations. It's either, one, this country is racist and xenophobic, and no amount of good policy propositions on a campaign will get people to vote for them. That's the first conclusion that I'm coming to. Or the Dems are just incompetent and the Republicans will continue to roll over them. I just think those are just my 2 conclusions.
Really quickly. W's in the chat too. Sean over on the Tube side for the $2 super chat. MAGA proves Hillary Clinton was right about deplorable. 6,000% correct. 6,000% correct. W's in the chat to Sean. W's in the chat to Sean. Guys, best way to support the platform if you're over on the Tube side is sending a super chat. Hold up. You may also hit up the links in the bio. Links in the bio if you want to support the platform that way on the 3 big apps. Go ahead.
Also, I am the CEO of the Scott Galloway Hate Club and the Ezra Klein Hate Club. I hate both of them. Go ahead, Ken.
Of the what?
Of the Ezra Klein Hate Club. I hate him.
Ezra Klein. What is that? What? I'm confused.
I know he's talking about.
You don't know? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Facts knows what I'm talking about. I can't stand him. But go ahead, Kit.
Oh, I was gonna say that I feel like you missed a point on your two reasons that Dems lost. Like, I absolutely agree with you with the misogyny and the racism, or the misogynoir. But another big thing is this last election, instead of truly listening to what the candidates were saying, a lot of people had a single issue on their mind, which was is not real, and the watermelon place, because I can't use real words on this app. And instead of listening to the platforms of either candidate, they just decided to not vote, which is why we had 90 million non-voters in the 2024 election, because they did not believe that either candidate would do anything to help the current G-side going on in the Middle East. And so they decided that the better thing to do was protest by not voting federally. And what that really ended up doing was putting the person in power who said that he wanted to turn that area into a parking lot. Because when you choose to sit out and not use your voice, what happens again is that you don't get, you further the harm. Like, this is a perfect example of furthering the harm instead of getting the harm reduction, which was the candidate who was promoting a two-state solution and federal aid or funding towards the people being harmed. And not enough people cared enough to look at the platform. So that's the other thing, is people want this really fun messaging. And whether it's disgusting or not, Trump has messaging down to a T, whereas Kamala had an 82-page PDF that nobody wanted to take the time to read on what her true policies were.
And can I add to that? Thank you, Kit. That was awesome. And also, Chad, due respect, but another reason that Kamala Harris lost was because of third-party voters, and because the margins were so slim. And this is not to attack you, but we're trying to unpack all this. Also, simple messaging. The Trump administration, the GOP, the Trump campaign, the GOP ran on the economy, that I will lower your prices, and they ran on immigration. Those are driving factors. I've been a part of numerous elections. I've worked on a dozen campaigns. It's always about the economy. We can unpack the results of 2024, and there's numerous reasons why, but more people need to vote and fewer people need to vote. I completely agree with what Kit said earlier about focusing on policy change so we can have ranked choice, focusing on getting down ballot progressives elected so we can pass state laws that will help us get ranked choice voting, therefore get more progressives in Congress. Harm reduction, harm reduction, harm reduction.
That's exactly
and I
where
just
it's
do
going
want
to
to
start.
quickly
Not a Jill Stein
apologize.
or an
And
RFK.
yeah, I do want to quickly apologize. Erica said I could say Palestine. I just don't. A lot of people have been getting hits today for a lot of things just from the lives I've been watching. So I'm just trying to be super careful about my words.
So I just wanted to respond just really quickly because I know we have a new guest. I wouldn't categorize what's going on in Gaza as a single issue. I think it's like a multitude of issues going on simultaneously. And I can't necessarily fault anybody for not wanting to vote because of the bipartisan support for said genocide. And I'm of the belief, G side, and I am of the belief, if what was going on in Gaza, if it were being done to Europeans, the conversation would be completely different.
I don't necessarily
conversation
disagree,
was
but then
different.
we can talk about all the other G-sides that they've been ignoring for darker-skinned individuals. I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to say this. I think more people would benefit from broadening their horizon and realizing that the path towards progressivism isn't sitting out our process. There's far too many people who are ready to burn the government down, or at least in theory, and their dreams and their book clubs, when the fact of the matter is, it's the system that we have in place, and we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think we can look at marginalized communities to see the progress that we've made so far. Change incremental or not, we are here because those marginalized communities stepped up. They used that process to their advantage. We fought and bled and died for it. And I am not quite willing to throw it all away for the sake of, I don't know. I feel like too many people have gotten too comfortable with not just validly criticizing, because that's fine, but just talking smack about the one party that's actually trying, or there's people in the party that are actually trying. I don't think it serves us to demonize them when we don't even have a real viable alternative. But anyway, I want to give you a final thoughts, and then we're going to move on to Noah up here. Chad?
You said, wait, say it again, Hector.
I was going to give you final thoughts before I move on to the next guest.
Yeah. I just wanted to finish up and say, I think that when we say trying, right? Do I believe the Dems are trying? No. At least 90% of the party is not really quote unquote trying. If they were trying, I'm not gonna lie, I don't believe Donald Trump would have won a single election. Other than I would say 2024 at least, because 2016, Hillary, like, running her was a suicide mission. Like come on, like, who in their right mind would want to vote for her? Like, that she makes Kamala Harris look like a communist. That's how awful she is. But
Who?
I think Hillary in 2016, Hillary Clinton ran, right? Didn't she run in 2016?
You were 16, my guy.
I know. I'm just saying. I just, even if I was eligible to vote, I wouldn't have voted for freaking Hillary Clinton. Like, come on now.
You know what? Really quickly.
I would vote for.
Hold that thought. Stick around for a bit. Hold that thought. I want to get to Noah, but I really want to unpack that. Noah, got a question for me?
Yeah, I do. I had like two questions, if that's cool. I look you gonna dip soon. I'm about to watch a movie with my family. But
Got you.
yeah. My first question is like, what is a leftist to you? Because I heard you identify yourself as such.
A leftist was someone who leans on the left side of our politics. Typically, we prioritize social issues, social welfare, capping capitalism at least, maybe not aggressively, but we advocate for more policies that represent the poor and middle class and the common man versus the 1%.
Okay, word. Yeah, so like the way I've always understood left-wing ideology is that it begins at like anti-capitalism, and then there's sort of distinctions within the approach to anti-capitalism. So you have like Marxist-Leninists, you have anarchists, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the average person understands the harm that capitalism causes, but we also understand that there's no doing away with it anytime soon, and we all participate in it, whether willingly or not. So there's that. But then we can see, once again, we can look at democratic socialists who more so want to put some caps and restrictions and heavily police it versus just letting it run wild. And I think that's the best we can do right now. And I think that's the closer we can get to a lot more recognition on socialism.
So you
No,
think
sorry.
reform it brings us closer to socialism?
Say that again?
So you think like reforming capitalism brings us closer to socialism? Because I just have a contention with that.
Not
'cause I think,
necessarily
like,
reforming capitalism. Capitalism isn't something that can be reformed. I think it can be tamed.
and it could be tamed through like the institution of like social welfare programs.
No, not necessarily. We're talking about when we talk about tax reform. Even when we look at the Biden-Harris proposed tax plan, while that was nowhere near what we actually need, incremental changes such as the unrealized gains capital tax, that would have been restricting capitalism. That would have been putting more of a cap or aspect of representation on that tax that would have been better for the average American. I think what they passed in 2023, I think it was through the Infrastructure Inflation Reduction Act, where we were able to hire that many more IRS agents that went after more billionaires, and we got over 100 million more in revenue that went back into the government and into our social programs. I think that's a start.
Noah, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So what I try to do when I have these conversations is I wish people could remove the label, the capitalism, socialism, democratic socialism, Marxism, and talk about the things that you desire from your country and whether or not your country can do these things for you. For example, I believe that we should have a system where every citizen has access to affordable health care. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'm a Marxist-Leninist, so I think we need to abolish capitalism, and I think like everything that's necessary for survival should be provided regardless of if you work. I don't believe in like work requirements for healthcare, none of that.
Okay, cool. No notes.
Yeah, but I mean, I do want to say like to a comment that Amon Green wrote, like I don't I think this idea of taming capitalism comes from like a misunderstanding of what capitalism is, which is a mode of production. And so you can implement taxes and things like that, but that doesn't fundamentally change the exploitation of surplus value, which is profit under capitalism. Nor does it change like the incentive being profit, right? Like to me, as long as profit remains the incentive, which it is under capitalism, like we're not going to like get these things for the masses.
Sure. I also don't think that we're going to have enough people getting ready to pick up arms and burn down the government and kill every single billionaire. So I understand the sentiments, but I also understand the world we live in. And that's why I more so identify as a pragmatic progressive, because we have a system that's in place and people that are trying to go in and cause the reform and the change that better reflects the average American. And I don't see the point of tossing that away just yet. Or you can advocate for everything you want, and then why not have the help and backing of people in the Democratic Party, of people who are democratic socialists, who are working alongside you, just in different ways, to get you closer to your goal.
I guess my critique is like I don't know if it brings it closer to the goal, because like Marx talks about this, but there are certain concessions that capitalists make. This has been going on for hundreds of years, that essentially like pacify the masses into complacency, right? Because for instance, somebody mentioned the Nordic countries. I know a lot of people who think they're on the left cite them as like their example for what they aspire to. I don't use them because they're only able to like have that comfort and have those welfare programs and wealth because of the exploitation that they do in the global south. And so like I think reform can be dangerous because it actually like sort of again pacifies people. It hinders, you know, political engagement in many instances. And I'm not an accelerationist. Like I don't think Trump being in office is good at all. I think it's terrible. But I'm also not certain that like pragmatism or reform brings us closer to dismantling capitalism.
I don't think pragmatism is an optional choice. Like I said, it always goes back to the exact same things for me. If you give me two candidates and one is not going to get me closer to where I need to go, but at the bare minimum, they're going to hold the line and not put us backward, which is what I believe happened in the 2024 election. I'm going to pick the person who's going to hold the line every time. I'm going to pick the person who provided things that would have moved us closer to the goal. Because what we see across us, and this is opinion that I have, I think Trump showed that this country isn't as left or progressive as we thought, to some degree. Because I do believe a lot of people legitimately felt disenfranchised and didn't vote. I do believe that's an issue with the Democratic Party and messaging and pushing forward the right people, 6,000%. But if we want those individuals to have more of a spotlight, if we want to get anywhere closer to progressivism, then we have one process of doing that that's going to have the money and the backing. I'm also not an anti-PAC person. I understand the criticisms behind PACs and whatnot, but not every PAC is bad. And to fight against the rich-ass GOP, we're also going to need capital as well. We see many candidates locally killing it in grassroots funding, and that goes back to Kit's point and Fact's point of starting there. Zoran did it. Talarico's doing an amazing job at it. Several other candidates across other states, they're killing it with grassroots funding, and they're starting at the local level all the way up. But to the people who are already up there right now, it's going to take a lot more than a couple $5 donations from your local areas to fight back against the system.
Noah, like I understand what you're saying. I think the reason people on the left use Nordic countries as an example is because we look at a society that prioritizes things like healthcare, like education, like a social safety net, like affordable housing. So it's not that we say that they didn't achieve these things because of certain, economic policies, we'll say. It's just those are things that we see as people who want to move our nation forward. Also, I would say to you, because we have to think of terms as realist at times. Idealistically, I have an idea what your society would look like, but from a reality perspective, what does it look like?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm a Marxist-Leninist, so like I would look to Marxist-Leninist projects that are ongoing, whether it be like Vietnam, Laos, Grenada, Cuba, the USSR, et cetera, et cetera.
No, I'm asking you to give me an example. Like realistically, how would you? I understand your Marxist Leninist philosophy, but I'm talking about 342 million Americans currently, right? How does our society function under your belief set realistically?
I'm a little bit confused by the question. Like you asked me
So
to give an example, I gave you examples.
okay, you gave us examples of other countries, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Okay, we're talking. You want to reverse the clock.
No, I'm talking contemporarily as well. Like Vietnam exists right now. It's a
Right, but so what would that look like here? Okay,
leadership.
so what would it look like then? Describe it to people who don't know. What would it look like if our government was like Vietnam currently?
I mean, it would mean that the workers would own the means of production, right? Are you asking me what socialism looks like?
No, I know what it looks
I
like.
mean, I don't have like a super specific view on like, I can't predict the future in terms of what the United States would look like under
So it's a belief
communism or
set.
socialism or whatever.
Right, so it's a belief set that you have. So when we talk about pragmatism, the reason that I also describe myself as a pragmatic progressive, like we've got to like I'm 58, right? So I want what's left behind to be better, but I see it as it's something we have to do over time. We can't do it overnight. I'm also realistic enough to know that capitalists still dominate our society, and they're not going to give that up. How can we change the political system to better align with things like healthcare? No more food insecurity, women's rights to their body protected, marginalized communities being defended constantly. Those are the kinds of things that in a system that we live in, we've got to be able to make progress towards the things that we want while also protecting people who are always going to be hurt no matter how much we change and how fast we change or how slowly we change. Does
Yeah,
that
no,
make
I
sense?
understand that. No, that does make sense. I think where we depart is my critique is about our current political system's fundamental incapacity to even accommodate radical politics. Like our bourgeois political system delimits what types of politics can even be practiced. So I don't think within our current system, like I think it would need to be current, like totally upended, which is why like I'm not a reformist. I believe in like militant revolution. I think this begins with building dual power, political education, organizing. And I'm not really in the business of telling people to vote or not to vote. Like, if you can get a candidate that supports Medicare for all, I would probably vote for that candidate. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would be something that I think would be great. I would love to, get things that benefit working class people as a collective. But yeah, ultimately, I don't think like liberation can be attained through electoralism.
I find it interesting that you mentioned Vietnam as a model. Would that you would argue is one of your ideal models for what you want the United States to be? Because they have their fair share of problems, and it's often actually described as state-controlled capitalism.
Yeah, so like I think I'm not of the belief that like one particular country could necessarily like serve as a model for others because I think our like material conditions are different, right? Like for instance, China's kind of like a confusing I didn't bring up China intentionally because like China moves kind of weird and there's debates among people on the left on whether or not they're even like communists, right? But one of the critiques is kind of what you're saying about Vietnam, which is this introduction of state capitalism, which actually is like, in terms of the
I say
Marxist-Leninist
introduction.
view, is
It's
like a
kind of been
stage.
that way since the 80s, 90s.
Right, that's what I'm saying though. But I'm saying it wasn't prior, so it had to be introduced. But yeah, like state capitalism was necessary to build productive forces. And China says that they're like moving towards socialism by like 2040 something, I think. I don't know how like true that is. And again, like they're not like a great model for me. But can I ask you one question just while Chad is up here? Because he had brought this up and I think it was a really good point, and I'm just curious what your take on this is. Because I hear among liberals this phrase of like single issue voting to refer to Palestine or just like US imperialism in general. And I'm curious, one, what function that serves, if not to undermine the sort of severity and violence of US imperialism and our support of this genocidal apartheid state. my other question about it would be like, are you familiar with the imperial boomerang, that concept?
Second one, no. First one, it's easy. Oftentimes we ignore all the other issues that we would be voting alongside over that one issue abroad. And I'm not saying just because it's abroad, we're supposed to ignore it. I'm not saying that we're supposed to prioritize ourselves, but also to some degree, I do live in the United States and I do understand that when people sit out the election because of that issue, they also sat out on women's bodily autonomy. They also sat out on healthcare. They also sat out on cost of living. So I don't think that a weakened country of socialists, of progressives, of whatever we call ourselves here, I don't think us being weakened by this administration helps people abroad.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't think like Trump
God
is like a
bless
win
you.
for people
Thank you, man.
abroad, but I also don't think like, our support for this apartheid state, and also, our funding of the UAE, which is doing the genocide in Sudan and all these other things that the United States is complicit in. Like, I don't think this really gets alleviated under Democrats. I've actually seen the Democrats be like extremely war hawkish as of late. I'm the same age as Chad, so I haven't been like, politically engaged for too long. But in my lifetime, whether it be like Obama toppling Gaddafi and destabilizing Libya, doing AFRICOM, which greatly expanded our military presence in Africa, which we know is not benevolent, right? These are all things that happen under Democratic leadership. And I've seen, just from being in liberal spaces, there seems to be this like rise of apathy towards imperialism because they think that people caring about Palestine is why Kamala lost, which I think is a part of it.
Absolutely.
But I'm concerned about the sort of like nationalistic sentiments that are now emerging among the liberals because of their discontent at Kamala losing, because there's not really anger at her for continuing to support this G-side. And even to this day, she did an interview recently, asked if it was a genocide, couldn't respond affirmatively whether or not that was the case. And it's like,
establishment Democrats are very careful with that word and what it would mean and how the media would run off of it and everything else. I'm not, again, the biggest fan of that. But however, I think one thing that's always left out of this conversation, specifically with what you said about people just being unhappy that Kamala Harris won, I think a lot of us can attest to the fact, including me, who's wearing a full Kamala would never hat and hoodie, is that it wasn't even so much about Kamala Harris. While she was personally slighted and disrespected by not only Biden's administration, but the GOP, it was more so about what she represented. It was more so the threat of what came if she didn't win. That's what more people are focused on. I know this because the average person doesn't really care or talk that much about Kamala Harris anymore. So one thing that we leave out of this conversation is that so many people rode hard for Kamala, not because of her. The average person doesn't know shit about her. They rode for what it meant if she lost. And we're seeing that implemented today. And I think that is what causes this quote unquote apathy that you're talking about, which I would not describe it as such, which is that we understood the threat that was this administration. And many of us, when we talk about Democrats, we're aware of the fact that they're not perfect. We're aware of the fact that they straight up ain't shit. Can we be real? They're not, they're not shit, but they're the only option that we've had that at least maintains any semblance or resemblance or standard of civil liberties here, any advocacy for people abroad. Yes, they're warmongers. Yes, when it comes to America's interests, that goes further past party. When it comes to blood money, the military industrial complex, that is not a party issue, but one party really took it up a notch. And I think that should have been substantial enough to make people go, we don't want that anymore.
Okay, yeah, we agree that imperialism is like a bipartisan project, and which I'm happy to hear.
I don't think anyone disagrees with that. There's like this notion that like when we talk about Democrats, we're like they're not this, they're not that. They're all the same in the sense of well, let me take that back. They all do the same things, but I think on one side they actually try to unpack that. I think on one side they don't wear it on their sleeve and they straight up don't run off of said imperialism versus the other. And I'm not saying it's just about looks and performance, but again, if I'm to look on both sides and see individuals on the lower level working themselves up to stop that from happening, to curb it, it's going to be Democrats. And that's what I advocate for. But we do have somebody above here, Iman, and then we'll get right back to you, Chad, because I did want to ask you that question. Thank you, Activista. I appreciate y'all. Make sure you continue to tap the screen. We're at 100K likes. Let's get us up to 150. Send your daily heart me's. Continue to do all the good things. Share out the live. And I see people in the
Hang on a
request. We'll
second.
get
I'm
to
going
y'all
to
in
do
a
a PSA.
second.
I noticed there's a live goal too above Handsome Hector's head. Y'all need to be doing your thing and making sure that happens. You know how to find him in the various spaces. It's his name he's on Cash App, he's on PayPal, he's on Venmo. You don't need me to tell you. That live goal better light up. If you haven't done your various things, please do all that stuff. Tap like crazy. Look at that handsome man. You know what to do. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Coconut oil and cocoa butter is amazing. Iman.
Iman, yeah.
Got a question for me?
So it's kind of a question baked into a comment. I don't know if that's all right for the space.
Go ahead.
All right. So
Thank y'all for the follows.
oh wow, that's solid. That's that just got me so off guard, yo. Anyway, so I want to start like what I'm thinking with regard to like where change is like starts at, right? I think a lot of time in these conversations we get caught up on like the output. Okay, this is the candidate that's on the stage. Okay, this is the policy that's on whoever's agenda, and so on and so forth. But I think a lot of times what ends up getting lost is the work that goes into the platform that's produced and the work that goes into the policies that these different politicians are pushing for. And that work, like no matter what's being like fought for, unless it's like outwardly just reactionary and horrible stuff, like, you know, we know what type of stuff that is, right? No matter what it is, like policies start at the grassroots level in terms of campaign building, in terms of organizing communities and figuring out what the needs are and what the issues are, and talking with the people there and getting them to develop a campaign around what they need at that particular moment. Right. And I wanted to point to that because the question of like if we elected so and so or if we elected the other, what would happen, I think loses the the systemic nature of all of the stuff that's going on. Right. The reality is like the Overton window for what like how the American government could operate. Right. The Overton window had been shifting right for however long. Right. And that's not something I think we should be sitting up here and saying, oh, that's the detriment of whatever politician. I really don't think that holds as much weight. I think we should be looking to ourselves and saying there's certain work that we are not engaging in and certain types of organizing that we're not engaging in at the local level and building power amongst ourselves that enables us to properly like demand anything. Right. We're putting ourselves in this position where we have no power and now we're asking politicians to do whatever things, right? So I wanted to get an idea kind of like, what do you feel like, what role do you think that plays in what we're talking about? Because like, I know a lot of what you've been talking about is kind of having the two choices, but beyond like the election day, you know what I mean? And beyond those 2 years when the campaigns are usually picking up, right? Like, what do you feel like is missing for us on that grassroots level? And I have some answers to that personally, but I wanted to get your perspective.
I think you articulated that very well. I kind of hinted at it in many ways, but ultimately, yes, a lot of what we're seeing now on the grander scale started in some bumfuck city council in Arkansas or some shit. So absolutely, I think everything literally starts at the local level. We have far too many people who want to hyper focus on the president and the vice president and the attorney generals or even the senators and not anything else. So yes, I agree with you. We really, really, really have to put more of an emphasis on many of these ideas that inevitably do make their way to the federal level, starting locally, and the education there. Here in the state of Texas, we had 17 propositions just passed recently, and they basically just ran off of tax cuts. People did not take into consideration the tax cuts that were from many businesses, banning taxes on like financial institutions, trusts, and brokers, and then property taxes that went into our education system, which spearheaded the bill that passed recently to privatize education. And now we're giving all this money out for charter schools under the guise of school choice, despite the fact that you've always been able to choose what school you can go to because you have the money for it. But now we're giving those people more and the funding poor people's classes. And it's creating, there's a whole nother conversation about just creating a working class, creating corporate shills, people to work on as cogs in your machine versus ownership and whatnot. But it all starts there. It all starts with those very local things. So I agree with you in your assessment, and I would say the answer starts with focusing on that. I know I've had a conversation with myself about, while I'm in the state of Texas, I want to have more videos, more posts, more lives about Texas politics, about Texas stuff that's happening on a daily basis, because we have shit happening on a daily basis. So absolutely, 6,000%. I could agree with that more. And I think it just gets a lot of us more involved in what's happening right around us instead of what's always put forward in the media, which there's an argument to be made by the time it gets up there, it's too late. It's about the stuff that they don't show.
No, yeah. I want to, and like with that, I want to take it a little bit further. Because I do think like there's an extent to which obviously like local governance is the most immediate thing we can influence. But what I'm referring to is more so like us building self-determination in our own communities. You know what I mean? And by that, I don't necessarily mean like the representative aspects, though I do think that's an output that comes out of the type of work that I'm talking about. But I mean like really putting power back in the hands of people who are immediately affected by, the policies like coming out of these governing bodies, right? Giving people more like functionally like directly democratic control over the space they're living in, their specific communities and the issues that affect them materially. You know what I mean? And I think like maybe
could you give an example of that? I understand what you're saying, but I think giving an example would really I think would help people understand more what you're trying to say.
No, absolutely. So basically like the distinction would be let's say you have, and I don't want to drag out the example either, but the example, like let's say you have a housing complex, right? You have a housing complex, people live there, they have an issue with the leasing office manager, right? Okay, cool. So they decide to develop a campaign basically trying to get some change in who the leasing office manager is, because the leasing office manager is the problem. The distinction I'm drawing is between these people going about building that campaign and their demand being, hey, local government, boot this leasing office official, and you all place somebody else in there, versus them saying, hey, leasing office, we want this leasing, or hey, local government, we want this leasing office manager booted. But in order to do that, we want the power to be able to make that decision on our own terms, and we want the power to be able to decide who becomes the leasing office manager through our own means. That's the distinction I'm talking about. It's where the power lies.
So alongside that, you would also have to be putting forward, because this is another thing, a lot of us talk about taking this person down, getting this person out, but we don't have alternatives. So it's also building up those individuals who are educated enough, who are well-spoken enough, who actually care about the people. And I think that needs to work alongside it as well. But go ahead, Fax.
I was going to say, who's the booting authority, though, in your model, Eamon?
What do you mean? Who's the booting authority? I'm a little lost up.
Who
like
boots
that was I'm sorry. Let me like elaborate that. I'm saying the distinction like that I'm drawing is between who, like, okay, when the people are saying we want the leasing office official removed, one way they can request this removal is just going to the local government and requesting it to happen. You see what I mean, right? The distinction that I'm drawing is what they're trying to do when they're trying to get the person removed. Instead of going to the local government to remove them, right? Then they build up power to be able to say, hey, we want to be able to control like how this particular institution functions, that being that leasing office. So they would be putting the authority in their own hands to make those decisions, right?
So 50 different leasing offices could be governed this individually, 50 different ways.
Wait, where are you? Huh?
I'm sorry, maybe it's just me, but I really don't understand what it is that you're trying to discuss here. So it seems like are you saying that you want hyper local governance?
Nobody said that. I said people should be advocating and organizing to be able to have more direct control over issues, over the way issues are handled that affect them materially. That's all I've been saying.
By
Right.
voting for city council reps or local representatives? In
No,
their community?
I just explained the distinction.
I'm
I don't know where the confusion really is here.
I'm a little confused as well, because
Really confused.
what you're talking about, and I don't, tell me if I'm missing something. We would already have that on many of these levels, more so certain states than others, right? We can talk about here. We just had one of those propositions just put more power over Greg Abbott to choose the board of governors and prosecutors for certain crimes, where he would now oversee all of it. So we see those gaps closing, where the power is not so much being put into the people's hands and their elections of people on this board, but now the governor himself and his handpicked appointees. And Greg Abbott is a piece of shit. So there's that. Because I don't know if we're necessarily in disagreement, but I think that the issue that we're having here is like we're not quite. It sounds like what you're saying that we need to do more, we all agree with, but we already have those processes, and I'm more so saying we just need more people involved in them, and we just need better marketing campaigns, I would say, to tell people, hey, we are in direct control of these things. How about we start using it?
Okay, so I think that, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I see like where the logic is, but the thing that I think where I do think the disagreement may be is with the idea that these things are already kind of in the control of the people who are directly affected by them, right? Like, I'll give an example. When me and the different organizations I work with, like in terms of community organizing, when we go into communities that are like public housing projects, essentially.
Really
right?
quickly, I'm sorry, hold that thought. Really quickly. Chad, I think you said you're in Pennsylvania. Noah, what's your state?
I'm in California right now.
And what's your state, Iman?
Virginia.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, when we go into these neighborhoods, right, in particular, right, the issues that arise come from a neglect from the government, right? And the thing people want there is to have more say so and be able to actually make things happen that'll make make certain issues they know are there go away. You see what I mean? They want that to basically have the power in their hands. This is what they say. It's not me like imposing this on people, right?
Okay.
So when people ask, hold on, when people want that to happen, right? Then what I'm saying is the job of just the everyday layperson who has the time to do it is to go into those communities and actually work with those people to take one, like obviously they're more strained than we are, than a lot of us are, right? Be able to make it to where they can like organize between each other to get those issues resolved on their own terms. That's more so the distinction, right? But the thing you're pointing to, like these processes that are in place for these people's voices to be heard, I'm not gonna lie, like at least where I'm at, that's just not the case. You know what I mean? And that's across multiple areas too.
Before Fax responds, W's in the chat to Justin Fax for the $5 super chat on the tube side. Love these conversations and these panels. Shout out to Steve. These are the best hangs. They absolutely are. And big W's to Steve. W's in the chat to Justin. W's in the chat to Justin. Appreciate your support. 62 of 150, guys. Best ways to support the platform is going to be the links in the bio. If you care so much to donate to this mission, I would greatly appreciate it. Make sure we're taking care of the panel as well. Give Fax. Give my moderator Kit here. Anyone else if you would like. And if you're over on the tube side, you may send a super chat. Go ahead, Fax.
So it almost sounds, and maybe I'm the only one that's not picking up on this, Eamon, but it almost sounds like you want members and or tenants of these facilities that you go into to unionize.
Yeah, that's a great way of going about that.
So okay, so if the tenants of 200 apartment units, maybe there's 500 people that live in this building. I don't know. I'm just throwing out numbers. So
Yeah.
whatever. If those 500 people decided to unionize, what are they? So there's a collective bargain there that they've organized, and they are now the ones that are advocating for themselves to hire a contracting company, for example, for repairs. or things like that? Is that kind of what you're thinking? I'm asking it that way because I'm trying to think, what's the end goal here?
Yeah. So that's a great example of something that people in a particular area might advocate for or struggle toward, right? And again, once that power is built in it's kind of like structured in something like a tenants union, like that's a great example, like I said, right? Once that power is built, then the process of advocating, right, for certain policies on a local level, on a state level, and so on and so forth becomes a lot more streamlined, right? At the end of the day, what I'm arguing and advocating here is saying that work of building those localized like bases of power, that's a grassroots power that's not subservient to a politician or whatever or whoever, right? The point of that is to make it to where anything that they need, any issue that needs to get resolved, there's actually organized bases of power to fight for those things, as opposed to where we're at right now. Frankly, just generally, things are so dispersed and just so disorganized amongst all of us, right? That there's no base for people to advocate for themselves. That's where neglect comes from.
The area I'm having trouble following. I don't even necessarily disagree with that, and advocacy for more people getting involved in our those processes and not so much being overseen by the government in terms of unionizing stuff is fine. That's cool. That's great. I would think that would be more so a separate thing than what we're talking about politically. But also I want to address a comment that I saw here. I just want to know why we have to be overly paying attention to politics instead of trusting the people we put in power. Simple. I don't think anyone raising kids would go alongside with what you said, right? At some point, we don't just trust our kids to do everything they need to do. We oversee them, right? We make sure that they're staying on. And over some time, we can trust them. But in our political process, that's not a thing that we can afford. It's as simple as that. I think that's been the problem this whole time is A, electing non-trustworthy people to begin with, and B, even if we sometimes do, we just trust them to do everything that they said they're going to do, and then that's where the waste, fraud, and abuse gets happening because we trust our politicians way too much. That's the big thing. I don't trust anybody to do anything unless it's people I've known for some time, and even then that's different compared to our bigger systems. So yeah, we need to trust less and hold people accountable more. Back to you, Iman. I guess the reason why I'm confused is that I don't necessarily disagree with anything you're saying. I'm just having trouble tracking in terms of what you think we need to do and how that correlates with our politics. Because on one hand, if you're saying do less things that involve the politician and more to where we are involved, that's cool. That's fine. I have no problem with that, especially on local levels and unionizing with the examples that you gave, jobs, schools. Sure, that's fine, but that would still be separate. I would do that alongside still telling people to get better representatives, still telling people to vote alongside parties and candidates in said parties that want to make that process easier.
No, yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to like start with that. So as an understanding of what kind of like what I'm saying should where the emphasis I think should be, right? I think generally, and this is something I think Noah said this, that he wouldn't say, oh, don't go vote, right? But I think generally when we're discussing politics, right, we tend to hyperfixate on the I guess what you would call the popular conceptions of politics that aren't these very one-to-one how are we organized amongst each other type of politics, right? And what I would say is a lot of our emphasis right now, if we want to see actual change in our bodies of governance and the way our politicians operate, the way we go about that isn't by saying, oh, we need to kind of make the right choice, per se, at the ballot. That's not where it roots to. The ultimate thing that we have to be focusing on is that actual one-to-one amongst each other, how are we organized together, building those bodies of power type of work. Because if we don't do that, then the Overton window can continue to shift right. When we do that, then we're building bases that are able to be functionally responsive to people's needs and effectively change where the Overton window is going, right? That's basically what I'm getting at.
I,
Go ahead.
I don't disagree. I think that's why myself and other people are getting very confused, is because everything you're saying is cool and fine, but specifically this live and this topic and what I do is I talk about the political side of it. Community advocacy and all those things are good. I think that's somewhat involved in our politics. We see many of the great candidates and ideas that get into our system often starts with communities. It starts with local people. But again, we would be talking about two different things to some degree. But I understand what you're saying. I did want I was literally just about to get to that guy because I wanted to get back to his comment about Hillary Clinton making Kamala Harris look like a communist. Is that what he said? That was his comment, if I'm not mistaken. If you're still here and you can come back up, I really want to hear from you about that position. We spent too long talking about other things. But Kit, I know you had your hand up for a second. So I'll give you the floor, and then Fax, if you had anything to respond to, you go ahead.
Yeah, I just had because I agree with everything Amon is saying. I do. I always have thought that community power is the most important. People power, unionization, that's the most important thing that we have as people. Getting away from this stupid westernized idea of hyper individualism. We need to get away from that and get back to like what, betterment of all people. I completely agree with people power. My issue is whenever we start talking about these things seems to be in these really big times of distress. And when people are just trying to survive, or better yet, many communities are even afraid to leave their homes at all just to grocery shop, let alone to organize and try to make a movement, how do we expect these things to happen when people are worried about getting basically black bagged off the street or otherwise harmed? That's where this is why I believe in the harm reduction, because if people are just barely surviving, barely keeping their heads above water, afraid to leave their front door, how does the organizing happen?
Okay. Is it all right if I respond to that briefly?
Yes, then Fax.
Yeah. So when it comes to harm reduction, like these are the moments that, like, the times we're in right now is like the moments when it's most essential for people who have the capacity to be engaged in that organizing. You see what I mean? Because my thing is, like, harm reduction, often when we think about harm reduction, what we're talking about is, which candidate, which face of the thing is going to be doing the least harm per se, right? But the reality is, like, the harm is there no matter who's in office. The harm reduction has to be an ongoing thing, right? And the way that we build people's capacity to be able to engage in that organizing, like you're talking about, isn't by saying, hey, everybody go vote for so-and-so, go vote this way. No, the way we do that is by actually building those localized bodies of power that can, like, take some weight off of people's shoulder, right? And I'm not like,
no one disagrees.
And I know, like, obviously there's no disagreement there, but it's just saying, like, that's the reality. It's a problem of emphasis.
Agreed, but I think that the point that is often missing and left out in these conversations is exactly what I mentioned, and Kit just mentioned there again, which is that the environment that we're currently in right now, that was worsened by this administration, does not help those grassroots missions, those people power, the people power that you're talking about. I think that's the reason why I do this, from the perspective that I do it, is because in many cases, I agree with everything you guys are saying. I understand the sentiments. I'm all cool with that. But I just always add on the fact that if we're to talk about doing all these great things and all these local level advocacy and stuff like that, it is oftentimes harder and worse to do that under Republican administrations, which is why I can easily tell someone who can't fucking stand Kamala Harris, who can't stand Hakeem Jeffries even, who can't stand many of these other people, to still vote for them. Not Jeffries, he got to go. I'm not sure who his opponent is. But there's so many candidates where it's like, if we get them there at the bare minimum, we don't have to look over our shoulders as much, because we don't have a nut job like Trump in the Oval Office. That's what's kind of hard for me. And I know I sound real establishment when I say this stuff, but that's the hard part that I have trouble wrapping my head around, which is that everything we're saying is cool, but it's so much harder to do now. Especially if we're talking about certain communities. White people are right, no matter what. Certain communities specifically, who are often the backbones of those organizing and those communities that you're talking about. it gets so much harder for them. Sorry, go ahead, Fax.
All good. I want to double down on what Kit said. I mean, absolutely true. The conditions that we're in, because typically speaking, humans are faced with change under two primary conditions, either desperation or inspiration. You always want to be inspired to change things. Forced change under despair usually doesn't end well because you end up making sacrifice. So when we talk about things in terms of harm reduction, every single day is harm reduction. I don't disagree with that. And I like what Hector just said about how, well, two things can't, more than one thing can be true at the same time. We can do what you're talking about, Eamon. We can certainly organize more. We can certainly unionize tenant communities, much like an HOA or whatever it might be. And at the same time, be advocating for progressive change in as many local elections as possible. Because if we're electing progressives, they care about the things that you're describing. They care about the power of the people. They care about power of community. So I think multiple things can be true at the same time. I would challenge your thinking on not where your heart is, not where your ideals sit, but execution and what it means and how do you get funding for programs and who are your advocates through local government, because we still have local government. So just think, now you've connected the emotion and your ideals. How do we get from A to B?
Okay, I'd like to briefly respond to that because I think what's getting lost here is that like what I'm putting forward isn't like an emotional thing. This is like literally how the changes end up occurring. And I think like a lot of times when we talk about like the stuff that has to get done in the communities that are able to and unable to do it, like I'm be honest, the places where the organizing isn't happening, where the stuff I'm talking about isn't happening, is in those communities, is not the communities that are being the most harshly hit by what's happening right now, right? These are the communities that I do work in and people who I'm around do work in. These are the places where the most organizing of this sort is happening, and that organizing is the reason that these communities are getting by, even in progressively run counties, right? So I'm pointing to all that to say, like the idea that there's like that there's the idea that we have to like walk and chew gum at the same time, right? Is
God
something
bless
that
you.
oh snap.
The good one.
Yo, these joints killed me, yo. The idea that we have to walk and chew gum at the same time, the idea that we have to like both do the organizing on one end and then the advocacy on another hand, right? Advocating for certain candidates on another hand, right? That's something that gets lost on me and that I don't really ascribe to, not because like I don't like understand what's like what the utility might be in it, but because the reality is that no matter how much we advocate for whatever candidates, right, these candidates are still subordinated to the system they're within. And the system only changes when there's power built from another source. You see what I mean? And the reality is that no matter who's in the office or whatever, none of them are making our ability to build that power and make those changes that we need to make functionally easier when we have not built up the power ourselves. You know what I mean? That's and that's just the reality of the situation. That's why, and I'm not like, obviously I'm not like trying to say, oh, don't do whatever advocacy you want to do, like by all means. But if we're not engaged in that work right where we're at, like, and we're not actually in these communities we're talking about and we're saying are directly affected, then like the idea of advocating for whatever thing just doesn't make sense because it's not an empowering process.
So
You see what I mean?
in other words, vive la revolution.
Hey yo, I mean you could say that lowercase r revolution if that's what you want to call it, but it's like the idea that we have to build and organize power amongst ourselves is, like that's the basis for any change. Whether you want reform, whether you want revolutionary change, you have to do the work where you're at. You know what I mean? That's my whole thing. Like, and that's where I think all of our attention should primarily be, with everything else like coming as a result of that and being subordinated to what the communities we're working in want to see. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anyone else, Kit or Fax, if you had any other thoughts, you may say it. If not, I'm going to go ahead and drop you down. I appreciate the conversation. You come up here and sharing your thoughts, and you enjoy the rest of your
Thanks,
weekend. Yeah, I think it's as simple as this. First off, I'm black, and one thing that I always say about black people is that we don't, since we've often historically had limited options, we don't sit here and limit ourselves at what, like, this is the way I see it. There are more than one ways to skin a cat. You can use every single way. I could care less, so long as it helps someone, so long as it benefits people. Some people prioritize what he was talking about. Some people prioritize the political side. I think both are necessary. I more so want people to see the value in both. I more so want people not to be putting down this other way, because I don't think it helps anyone to limit your options to progression. So I'm on my side of the aisle. And then I also try to do, in fact, from this side of the aisle, when it comes to getting money to communities for food banks, fundraising we've done there, other individuals who've fallen on hard times, from this side of the aisle, I've been able to do things for people and help people, and I actually hope to do a lot more. It's not useless. That's the part that I really try to emphasize to people. I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that this process, our electoral process, is useless. I think we're in a representative democracy. I think to some degree, a lot of people talk about empowering local governments and more people involved. I think that can get messy because not everyone is equipped to understand how certain things work. And just if everyone had a say in everything, I think in many ways that's actually going to slow down the government. But I get the sentiment. I get how the points that they were making. What I got confused on, and this is where I get confused on, is I feel like several points in time we just got completely lost in that conversation. Like I didn't even know what the goal was. I knew what my goal is when I talk about this, but I didn't even know what their end goal was. I think we got very mixed up when we started asking for examples of some of the things that were referenced, and then how those weren't properly articulated. And I'm not knocking those individuals. I think that's a very big problem on the left, where we sat there and we had this whole conversation, and then I don't know. I don't know if anyone felt like they got out of that and learned anything. Personally, it's we can get so lost in all these different things. We don't have a landing plane, and then the right is doing the right's going crazy as we're sitting here doing whatever that was. I think that's my issue with how so many of us talk about these issues. Not to mention, there is blue state and purple state privilege. One of them mentioned being from California. The other one mentioned being from Pennsylvania, which I believe is purple. I think it's purple with a red.
It's purple.
Would it be fair to describe? I know it's purple, but would it be fair to describe its government as more so democratic?
Yeah, I mean, I think the recent wasn't there a special election there with the Supreme Court seat, Josh Shapiro as the governor. So yeah, I would say it's purple.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh yeah, that's fine. Ultimately purple, which is you're doing so much better than Texas. So I tend to get a little frustrated sometimes listening to these people talk, because I'm like, you have the privilege of speaking that way from a blue or purple state. What's happening here in Texas, Trump is trying to take to the federal level. In fact, Greg Abbott and Trump are literally exchanging ideas. Texas is the testing ground for some of the shit he wants to apply to the entirety of the country. So it is very easy for me to say, I don't care if that person doesn't run off of universal health care. I don't care if that person may have had a shoddy record when it comes to voting on Israel. There's other things that we also have to vote on. It's very easy for me to say that. It's very easy for me to tell other people to ignore those other things is problematic, because I'm like, I'm affected. Women here in Texas are very much affected by 2021 and the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Women here are very much affected by his win in 2024 and everything else. So it just gets really hard for me to hear what they're saying sometimes, when I'm like, people, I know for a fact people would have been better off if this person won. I know for a fact people would have been better off if this person won. But oh well.
And that goes to what I was saying. If you're not just surviving, if you're not afraid to leave your front door, then these ideals that we have on the left we can actually implement. Which is why I don't understand how we're just like, oh, we'll just do this. Like, people are afraid to leave their homes, you guys. Like, here in Oregon, we were organizing different food drives and stuff for Christmas, and then having people go drop these things off at front doors because people in my sanctuary state are afraid to leave their house. I have that privilege of being in a blue state, but like you were just saying, Hector, I'm absolutely terrified of things that are happening because I'm also watching yours. And I know if a lot of these things get implemented on a federal level, let's talk about my oldest kiddo, who I'm so happy just got approved for gender affirming care, right? What happens then if your state is no longer, like, if that's not the singular testing ground and all of this stuff gets banned? I have disabled children who they're cutting funding for disability care in so many ways. And I'm struggling and fighting just to get my kids the aid they need, the support they need, the speech therapy they need, the occupational therapy they need. What time am I then left with to organize, to get out, to do things, if I'm just having to fight for my kids' basic needs and being afraid for them? Like, let alone myself. I won't even get it. You know, I'm also queer and all that, but I have the privilege of being porcelain as fuck in a blue state. So, like, whatever.
It is designed this way. So yeah. Any cases.
Can I piggyback on something you both just said? Because
Yeah.
I think it's really important. I mean, I completely agree. I think this is what we just witnessed was how Republicans fall in line and Democrats fall in love. So the idea behind this was a perfect example of the disadvantage of having a really big tent. I love the brain power that those three guests had. Obviously, very smart, well read, but they're not practical solutions. They're focused on this ideal scenario where they each had their own view of how things should run, and that will then divide voters. That will then force people to say, well, they're not Vietnam enough for me, or they're not, unionized locally enough for me. And then that would turn people away from traditional two-party to vote for a non-viable third party, and we'll never get what we want. So I worry about that. I love the brain power. I love the conversations. I love to be able to be in a position, to Kit's point and to your point, I wish we weren't under fucking threat every single day. I'm not. I'm a privileged white man in America. You both are. I don't want to be under threat every single day to have to be forced to make decisions. But those conversations are necessary, just not right now. Just not right now.
I think I agree with everything you just said, and it just, for me, it goes back to I don't know. It gives a lot of short-term pain for long-term gain, but on the left, I am not going to participate in this, and I know if I don't, then we could let worser powers, or I guess in their arguments, the same powers, get worse. But then ultimately that's going to wake more people up or get more people involved to do what's necessary, which I think one of those guys straight up said militarized revolution. I can't, what am I supposed to do with that? But hey, that's Wonder Bread, got a question for me?
Not a question. I don't ask questions. I make statements. But
forgot that was Bretta. If you are a Trump supporter or a leftist or anything of that nature, request up in the box. You're the demographic of people that I want to have a conversation with. If you have a question about our Trump, whatever, our political process, other things, you may request up. Or if you're over on the tube side, you may call in the number on screen. That's going to be 737-295-5321. That's 737-295-5321. Guys, you know me. I'm sorry, really quickly. I have this thing about the way some of us, and this is not a knock to some of my people, this thing where we continuously cycle out these problematic fucking people for views. I'm done. I'm not doing it. people are waste of time. They advocate themselves to be waste of time. They just come up here to gain followers and piss me off. I'm not doing that anymore. I want solutions. I want genuine conversations. I don't want to go tit for tat with fucking clowns. Not doing it. Go ahead, Kit.
I was just gonna say I saw Shauna say "oh no" in the comments, and I had figured it out. I was like counting down to when you were gonna figure it out.
I don't. It's literally voices for the most part that gets me with people, and some profile pictures will they'll scream off the bat, "Oh, I know who that person is," but then they change them so much. But then typically when it comes to certain voices, I'm like, "Oh, that person. No, we're not doing it. We're not doing it." But yeah, so this is my stance, just in case anyone doesn't know. The reason why I don't think Democrat is a dirty word, the reason why I will always tell people to vote Democrats, or more so certain Democrats in certain positions, is because what is our alternative? Third party does not have enough votes. Even if we get to that 5%, that would get them more funding, but we're still a long way off from them getting the coverage. We saw election after election after election after election. RFK had the people, or a certain class of people. Don't get me started on that. Jill Stein had a lot of viral clips, a lot of gotcha moments, a lot of good things, debatable, whatever. A lot of those moments when it came to actual votes, it wasn't there. It wasn't there. And I just wish more people, to his credit, what one of those guys mentioned, would start doing more from the ground up for third party to really get them to a position to where it's actually a contest. That's just the reality of the situation. And then I do think when it goes back to the pragmatic part, there's a lot of people who have ideas and it sounds great. And if they get in those offices, I do believe they will actively try to implement them. But then when you look at our structure and how everything works, I think a lot of them are going to be baffled as to how politics actually works. So I don't want to say idealism is killing us, because I don't think that's fair. I think it's very important that we have ideals and we hold true to them, and we always fight for a better world, even if it seems impossible. But I think it gets to a point to where there's a lot of younger, comfortable state people that are just going, give me this or nothing. And it gives spoiled. It gives spoiled to me. It gives privilege. That gets us nowhere. Again, have your ideas. Always fight for it. But then if you're presented with, I always go back to this, if you're presented with stay the same or go backwards, yes, I'm going to pick stay the same every time. I'm never going to apologize for that. The shit may be bad right now, but why would I want it to get worse? How does that help me get where I want to go if things get worse?
That's where I see idealism as dangerous. And I think that's what led in I think that's what cost us. Well, one of the reasons that cost us the election in 2024, and in general, I think that suppresses votes. I think the Democratic, the leftists and the peel off voters of like some of the ones we just spoke to were so focused on their purity of ideals. I don't mean that in a negative way, but because they didn't get what they want, their entitlement took over and they didn't show up to vote. So yes, more conversations about more ideas. I love it, but I want to see action.
And I want to say to that, like I have my absolute, utopian ideals. And I'll always keep them. But like Hector, at the end of the day, I'm going to be pragmatic with the system that we have, with the system that we have to play this game in. Like, please hold on to those ideals. Don't let them go away. But also, if it's not going to be a perfect fit off the bat, don't just do nothing. Like, there's another big thing I want to touch on, and a lot of people have this idea, and I really wish that I could quash it in like everyone. But there's this idea that voting doesn't matter, and I just want to point out, and like obviously Hector's state is a lot worse. That I'm in Oregon, I'm in Portland specifically, so like I'm again super privileged in so many ways. But if voting didn't matter, they wouldn't make it so goddamn hard for you to vote. They wouldn't make it so that where the voting booths are out in the middle of nowhere and transportation is difficult. They wouldn't take away a certain number of ballot boxes. They wouldn't do the things they do to take your voice away if it just didn't matter. If they already had all of this figured out behind closed doors, they wouldn't do
It's
it.
Javier
Stop
Ambler.
acting like voting doesn't matter. That makes me insane when people, oh, well, it just doesn't matter. They've already, no, it matters. It absolutely matters. 90 million people showed who stayed home that it fucking matters.
I want to show you guys this clip actually.
Reach.
Let me pull it up here. Window capture. I really want to show you guys this clip because this is another reason why I'm just like fucking W Tallarico, because the way he was able to talk to people is just incredible. So
Hey, how can you even be here since the city of Portland was burned to the ground? My gosh.
You know, I keep wondering that myself, and I look around at all these nice giant trees all around me out in my front yard, and I'm like, oh, where's the fire? Apparently, you know, it wasn't just like one dumpster downtown, it was my whole city, apparently. So I don't know, maybe I'm just a ghost, and this is the ghost version of Portland. I have no idea, but yeah, apparently, you know, my city's gone.
You're the Phoenix.
Exactly.
So, y'all know how I feel about Jubilee and stuff, but I do think to some degree there's a lot of people tuning in. They're necessary. This is another issue that I have with a lot of leftists. Do we really think that the 90 million who didn't vote, that average person understands half the words that some of those people said with imperialism and this? They don't. That section of people who are that educated and who understand these systems is a very small portion of the country. Let's just be real. So when this is why I actually don't fault the Democrats for this. When it comes to reaching those 90 million, you have to reach them on the stuff they understand, the stuff they care about. Because the average voter is stupid. Let's be real. When I say stupid, I don't mean it as an insult, but just politically stupid. We don't understand the intricate details of how that shit works. That it is what it is. It is what it is, not an insult. But anyway, Tallarico went on an episode of Jubilee. It was like him versus 20 undecided or non-voters. And it was specifically a black guy asked him like how to get him to vote. So I'm going to go ahead and play that clip here.
It's Javier Ambler. He was a father who was killed by the police for not dimming his brights. Yeah. He was pulled over.
I don't think this is the one. I think this is it. Hold up here.
Yeah. Honestly, James, I don't think you're going to do anything. We've heard it before.
I hate that guy. He's fucking stupid. This is the guy he was talking to. This black guy is who he was talking to.
He was a father who was killed by the police for not dimming his brights. Yeah. He was pulled over. He told them he had a heart condition. They tased him so many times that he died right in front of them. Yeah. The whole thing was filmed for a reality TV show called Live PD. It's kind of like Cops.
Yeah.
The research shows that those reality TV policing programs encourage more violent behavior from police officers toward constituents. Oftentimes it's black and brown constituents that are getting the most hurt. Worked with Javier's family to pass Javier Ambler's law, which bans reality TV policing in the state of Texas. It's not enough. We have to do so much more. But to me, that's one example of when you elect someone who does have the community's interest at heart and you continue to work with them. Again, just voting and walking away, it's not going to do it.
It's not.
But if you vote for someone and you hold them accountable, which I hope you hold me accountable if I'm elected as your senator, progress is possible.
Yeah, and I think, and to the story of the police brutality, because I had a little brother who passed away, who was killed by a police officer. So that is something that I'm also very passionate about, because it's something that hit very home for me. So when we speak about things such as defunding the police or over policing in our communities, that adds to another piece of why it is very difficult to necessarily, if I'm being very frank, to believe any BS that Democrats are saying, because I'm living in a reality. Yeah, we can talk about things from a grand scheme, from a top level, but when you're speaking about as an African American walking everyday life, where you're dealing with things that are just based in a system that never was meant to work for me, it's kind of hard to live, to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm a man of faith too, and I do believe that there is a belief that you have to, have hope for something, for sure. But I think that sometimes, there is hard to kind of still live in that hope when the everyday world that's around you does not care about you.
And Ashton, do not believe anything I say, believe what I've done.
For sure.
And I think that's going to be the best predictor. What was your brother's name?
His name is Isaiah.
Well, I think that if we do this right, if we have a mass movement of working people of all races in this state and across the country, I think we can win this next election and actually move the country forward for Isaiah and for all the people that we've lost because the system is so thoroughly broken.
That was an exact clip that I was talking about, but I do want to comment on that for a bit. And this is where I believe we need certain people in our government that have a proper temperament for it, because I hear certain things like that and I actually start to get irritated. And he just handles that super well. So he went on to talk about how police reform is a super big, important thing for him. The funding the police, more community stuff is a super big thing to him. And that's why I don't believe that the BS the Democrats say. Right? First half, cool. That's good. That's important. He mentioned being a man of faith. And then that's why I don't believe the BS the Democrats say. Can someone tell me what Republican is running off of reforming the police, capping the police, less money towards militarizing them and more towards community issues? Can someone tell me what Republican has mentioned? Actually, there I can say Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa, actually, to some degree. He mentioned that a little teeny bit. He was talking about funding the hell out of them and actually having them tackling crime, but he did reference one thing once. I will say that. But it's so hard listening to people talk about their values that I know at least the Democratic Party or people in the party are pushing forward, have put forward in bills that don't even leave the committee sometimes because we don't have the right people there. It's hard for me to listen to those people talk about them and then follow up with fuck the one party that actually somewhat cares about that. That's really hard for me. That's where I get super frustrated, because I'm like, you're talking about all the things that matter to you, and then somehow your solution is just to do nothing. It's like, okay, again, this side is going to bring us back 50%. This side is going to move us 5%. If I sit at home, then what? Nothing. Nothing. Like, give me the 5%. This entire thing with getting where we want to be is not a what's the saying? It's not necessarily a destination. It's a journey. Just so much of what I want, what I'll advocate for on a daily basis, I may not ever see in my lifetime, but I'm going to continue to do it because I intend at some point maybe to have children. And I want my children to have a much better chance of getting them than I did. I think that's how black people viewed everything up until the 1964 Civil Rights Act and onward. It was that I may not ever see this, but I want my children to live in a better life than me. What I'm seeing is the youth now. They're going, I want this now. Fuck everybody else. Fuck everything else. It's really selfish, to be honest with you. And I'm really not trying to like beat down on these people, because I understand their concerns. I share their frustrations, but it's getting to a point where it's just like, sometimes I really don't know what they actually want, because it almost seems contradictory. Hold on.
Call from
TC.
I don't necessarily describe it as selfish.
God bless you.
More entitled.
That's fair. 1 second. Caller, you're on the line. Got a question for me?
Yeah, I'll even add one more point to you about your police accountability with that fool on Jubilee. Like, what state actually convicted cops that are actually abused black people? We have what happened with Derek Chauvin. He was prosecuted by Democrats here in the state of Minnesota. The Democrats have actually passed police accountability up here in Minnesota. So this whole idea of people shitting on the one party that's actually doing it, I think is a result of, number one, ignorance, number two, laziness of actually doing the research to find out who's actually trying to, move the ball forward. You know what I mean? I think a lot of the problem is we are dealing with a lot of ignorant voters who are lazy and ignorant. That combination right there is a detriment to our society. Because if you don't know anything, and if you're too lazy to look it up, that's what's going on.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I do. I'll push back a little bit on the laziness. But yes, I agree with you. I have a very Democrat friend, like establishment Democrat friend. Like, I love this friend to death, and they're very smart, very knowledgeable, but sometimes they irritate me with how they talk about Democrats, right? They are pro-Democrat. They say, I don't give a fuck who they put forward, I got them. And I don't understand it, at least not completely. But several conversations I've had with them, and the knowledge that they put forward. The most amazing thing to me that got me to the position where I'm at now is when I realized a lot of the stuff that I talk about, that I would even, some people go as far as to say Democrats have never even entertained, have been bills that have already been introduced. And not within the last 4 years, sometimes beforehand. There are so many things that we talk about on a daily basis that Democrats back then and some Democrats now have tried. So another part of what I talk about when it comes to this process is heavily not even focusing so much on the president, although that's important. But Congress, we really have got to get a hold on Congress. I want to see a majority in Congress, a real majority, not independent majorities based off of fucking Fetterman. Fuck that guy. I want to see a real majority in Congress, and I think we'd be surprised to see what comes out of it. So 6,000%. Everything you said, I agree with you, and it's just.
And I will add this too. This is another reason why I know people like to hate on this guy, but I give him a lot of credit for what he's done to keep his caucus together. Jeffries. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you what he has to deal with. I'll give a good example of the bullshit he has to deal with. All right. Remember when they had that?
I really don't like him. I'll hear you out. I want to hear what you got.
Okay. First of all, you got to understand, he has to keep the caucus together with these moderate Democrats and these, because I always say the Democrats are responding to the voters. It's not the other way around. I believe most white people are conservative because they want to conserve their power and their resources, and their voting patterns dictate that, right? You look at Barack Obama only getting 39% of the white vote back in 2012. And that percentage has stayed the same ever since the civil rights acts were passed, right? So Hakeem Jeffries knows this. I have to keep my white moderates in line. So I have to do certain things and say certain things and do certain things to keep them in line. So when they did that stupid Charlie Kirk bill, I know he didn't want to vote for that bullshit. He didn't want to do that. But he had to give his members cover. I mean, I was so pissed off. My member here, I'm like, chick, you live in a minority district. Why are you voting it? But she one of these white people. That's just how they don't understand. They don't understand. So Hakeem has to deal with people like my congressperson, who, if you look at her, she's very progressive. She does what she has to do. But just simple shit like that, she votes yes for the Charlie Kirk bill. Why?
I think, yeah, so
he has to deal with white people like that who are in a safe blue district and who do dumb stuff, who do dumb votes like that.
So I will agree with you in some areas when we talk about, like, the one guest we had bring up the DSA and how the DSA did not back what's his name, and they would leave out the conversation the strategic regions for it. Like, I think a huge indicator of
right, and then to add on to that, hold on, before you to add on to that too. Okay, well, Hakeem Jeffries in that, he is the leader of the House, and if Zoran wants to have his programs, he can get Hakeem to deliver the funds to do that. If he wants to have that free buses, right, he can get money from the feds to do that.
No, he can't.
That's a little different. I think when it comes to federal backing of that, that's a vastly different thing. Could a bill pass to do that somewhat? Yeah, but that's a whole nother thing.
When they do appropriations, he can get federal funds to do that.
He could, but yes, he's running off of his plan is mostly state level. Can he get federal funds? Yes. So I understand what you're saying in terms of keeping good relationships with him, which I would say actually Zoran's the lack of Zoran's endorsement for Osei, however you say his name, was more than that. Mm-hmm. But I understand what you're saying, but it's still a different thing. And to get federal funding for free buses in the state of New York, where our Congress is currently sitting, absolutely not. Hakeem Jeffries there, absolutely not.
I'm saying in an appropriations bill, he can get that put in. they have to pass appropriation bills.
You could. Yes, I agree with you, but I'm saying that's not going to
So
be.
that's what I'm
with,
saying.
with,
So
with
why would
Jeffries.
you? Why would you throw out the leader of the Democratic Party that's in your city? Why would you want to challenge him if he can get you money to support your programs?
Again, it would be about getting a candidate that is more in line with your views and will absolutely fight more to get you the money.
But he won't be the leader. He won't be the leader. Do you see what I'm saying? If they primary Jeffries tomorrow, right, and Jeffrey loses, who's the next leader? It won't be the guy that replaces Jeffries. It'll be somebody else. You see what I mean?
What?
I'm a little confused.
Okay.
Whoever speaks
okay.
to the
The leader of the
is the
Democratic Party, the leader of the House Democratic Caucus is Hakeem Jeffries. If he gets primaried, right?
The next person would be the new House leader.
No, that's not how it works. The next person that the next person that primaries Jeffries, he does not automatically become the leader of the Democratic Party. It'll be somebody else.
Well, it would be House Minority Leader specifically.
I know, but I'm saying it'll be whoever's leading the Democratic caucus in the House. Right now, it was Hakeem Jeffries. If he gets primaried, right, that person that leads the Democrats will not be the person that primaries Hakeem. That's not how it works. It'll be somebody else.
I'm doing some due diligence. Give me a moment, but go ahead.
So that's why I'm like, why would you get rid of the guy that's, and then as far as him not really supporting Zoran, I look at it like this. Zoran was a part of that whole non-committed movement that didn't support Kamala Harris. So if I'm Hakeem Jeffries and I know this, why would I support Zoran now? Why would I throw my full throat of support when the Democratic Party needed him? He didn't support Kamala Harris. So why would I do that? That makes no sense.
Well, this is literally what I did and where I would disagree with Jeffries in this regard. Yes, absolutely. Zoran Mamdani was awfully quiet when it came to Kamala Harris. He did support the uncommitted campaign. Although, if I'm not mistaken, the uncommitted campaign wasn't exactly don't vote Harris. Initially, it was started for Biden, then they went over to Harris. Mamdani made a post about it in support of more so holding the candidates accountable. I'm unaware of him taking any position, and I've looked into this extensively, of saying don't vote for her. I still thought it was a problem that he was quiet, but when it came to his support, if I was in the state of New York when he was running before he won, the reason why I told
But it
people to
wasn't
vote
positive. It wasn't like he didn't endorse
no, it absolutely
Kamala.
wasn't positive. But here's my point. Here's my position. This is where I have the issue with worrying so much about party, right? Because I would have voted, if I was in New York City, I would have voted for Zoran Mamdani, not based off of how he just knocked on the party. It was about the policies that he wanted. It was about how he would help
Right, I
people.
agree.
And that's where we need to put names aside. Again, I don't agree with Mamdani's silence, but I looked at what he was running off of, and I'm like, okay, fuck how he feels about Kamala Harris. It's a problem. Don't get me wrong. I personally think it was a problem how quiet he was, but it would have helped people. And I think that's the big picture we all need to look at.
Right, and that's why eventually Hakeem endorsed him in the last minute. He did the right thing, because I understood what he was doing. I'm like, wait, you didn't support Kamala, and you expect me to bend the knee and support you? Nah, bruh, I'm gonna draw this out. It made sense to me what he was doing, because what he did too. Well, because which is more important, a mayor's race or a president's race? I mean, so it made sense to me. What he did made sense as far as Zoran. It made sense to me.
Yeah.
Because it's like he didn't support Kamala. And then some of the moves that he's doing, I look at it as, okay, he's got to keep in line these weak-kneed white Democrats, the type that'll vote for a Charlie Kirk bill. That's the kind of people he has to keep in line in the caucus. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I see what you're saying. They would still have to have a separate, whatchamacallit. They would have to have a separate election or decision in the Democratic caucus for the House Minority Leader.
Exactly. So that's my point. So why would you, as Zoran, support a primary challenge? They get rid of Hakeem, and then you gotta have a whole new person who we have no idea who that's going to be, who could be from New York or could be from somewhere else. So that's why I'm like, if I'm Zoran, it makes sense for them to be like, yo, don't primary this dude.
So wouldn't that be
He's
more
from
so,
New York.
And I see what you're saying. So that would be more so a vote for your personal interests. And I'm not saying those personal interests couldn't be good for the state of New York, but that would be more so a vote of this person is in my district. This person can help me. I scratch their back. They scratch mine.
Exactly.
I would still like that defends Zoran's position. I understand that. AOC's position. I understand that. I would still say that Hakeem Jeffries has to go. And I saw a couple questions in the comments asking.
Why does he have to go? Give me 5 reasons why he has to go. Because I hear this.
I'm going to give you 2.
I hear this from the left. And I'm like, do y'all understand what he has to deal with? He has to deal with 214 different personalities. I give y'all Chuck Schumer. He has to go. But Hakeem, no. I think that's just
you don't
BS.
find them both to be equally mediocre?
No.
Okay, so hold on. Let me answer your question. Let me answer your question. Wait, let me answer your question. So my personal issue with Hakeem Jeffries, and I'm just talking based off of persona, purely based off of persona. I have a strong issue with any person in the Democratic Party who seems to have little to no media training, because they make us all look bad. I understand that the average person should focus more on how they vote.
Mike Johnson. So you're saying Mike Johnson is better than Hakeem?
Fuck no. No. So
then that's who the fuck you gotta compare him to. That's who you gotta compare. Compare Hakeem.
Hold on. No. That's not different. That's vastly different, because we're not saying kick him out and then Mike Johnson can take over. Mike Johnson is over Republicans, right? We're simply saying give another Democrat a chance. Now hold on. Let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
A terrible job at representing Democrats the entire fucking year when it came down to answering questions about the government shutdown, when it came down to issues in regards to like the impeachment and whatnot, which I understood the reasons why they didn't vote for that. But it's just, this man goes up there, he looks like a bumbling buffoon sometimes. And that does not make us look good. When we have the people that we have in the party that seem so well-spoken, when we have the rising stars such as Talarico, the video we played, it just really leaves me wanting for more when it comes to Jeffries. I just don't think he's that guy. I understand he's there and he's doing stuff, but I think we could do better. It's as simple as that. It's the same issue that I have with Colin Hurley.
You're basically saying he's not good on TV. He's not good on TV. Behind the scenes, like what I'm talking about, as far as getting bills passed, technicians on doing certain things, which is to me more important.
Yeah, sure. I don't disagree with you, and that's a portion where I can say I can claim some ignorance on 6,000%. But again, if we're talking about the average voter is what they see. The average voter is that media that you're talking about.
The average voter don't even know who the hell Hakeem Jeffries is, though. The average voter doesn't even know who he is. They know
he's the House Minority Leader. They know he's been the face of a lot of these movements. So,
if I go to the hood in Dallas, Texas, and I ask my cousins, do you know who the hell Hakeem Jeffries is? They're going to be like, who?
They don't vote for him, though. Doesn't matter.
And that's always been that way. Even with Nancy Pelosi, who was a very effective, one of the most effective House speakers ever, they don't really
she absolutely was.
Who...
She absolutely was. But okay, so let me give a position there. Nancy Pelosi did a lot of good things. I don't feel the same way I feel about Nancy Pelosi as I do Hakeem Jeffries and some other people. However,
you know why?
With her stepping down, right, for next year's election, do you agree or disagree?
Do you know why you don't feel that way? What's the difference between Pelosi and Jeffries?
There's several. Nancy Pelosi would have had more experience. Nancy Pelosi spearheaded a lot of huge things such as women's rights. Nancy Pelosi was voting on very important things that took place within the last decade specifically. Whereas Hakeem
was she good on TV? Was she good on TV, bro?
Yeah, I would say she wasn't bad, and then she stopped.
Was she good on TV? No, come on now, man. Come on. Was she a great person on television? No, she was not.
Sure. Okay, so So, okay, that leads directly into my next point. We're in a different era with a different voting base who wants more. So that's why I'm saying for all of them, when Nancy Pelosi says she's not running again, there's a lot of people upset because of her
But she's
experience
old
and
as
whatnot.
hell, of course.
I get it's not even about age for me. It's just we need a different batch of people in the party to motivate these individuals that we're talking about, to get a portion of that 90 million going to reinvigorate Democrats who sat out the last election. If we keep the same people saying the same stuff, doing the same things in the party, we're not going to move the needle at all. We need to do a better job at appealing to the individuals who are up and coming, because apparently old Democrats are not enough. They're fucking sitting out elections to some degree.
I think what we need
Keep
is a better
tapping the
media
screen,
apparatus.
sharing and gifting,
That's
everyone.
the
Tap,
difference
tap,
between
tap.
the right and the left. The left is like hoarding cats, and they have all these desperate issues and ideas, whereas the right, they get in line and they do what they're told. And if they have a messaging, so let's say, for example, they have a message from Trump, and then that message gets distributed from the top all the way down to the YouTuber. That's the difference. Whereas on the right, whereas on the left, we critique, we have circular firing squads. It's ridiculous.
I understand that we do too much of that, but to be clear, I never would want that to go away. I think that's what makes us the superior party. I never want us to get to a point where we just fall in line with everyone, because then we'd be no better than the opposing side. I think we do it too much. You disagree?
Yeah, I think we need to be like I look at how we have Scandinavia and we have China, how those countries are able to do things. And I think the left needs to be more on code.
It's a terrible
in order
example because
to
they're not as
progress.
diverse as us, and they don't have some of the same things that we manage.
Well, I do believe diversity is the reason why we don't have certain things, because it goes back to my philosophy is I believe white people don't want to share resources. And that's why they're so reluctant to vote for progressive policies and progressive politicians. You know, the more south you go, because I'm currently in the state of Minnesota, the more south you go, the more conservative the white voter is.
No, I don't disagree with that. We had the discussion already, but I more specifically want to get from you. And again, I'm claiming ignorance on this. There's things I'm sure I can learn about Hakeem Jeffries. What exactly about his record? In fact, anyone down in the chat, anyone else who would like to call in who is more informed about this, please tell me what exactly is the fixation or the appreciation, the respect for Hakeem Jeffries? Because I'm lost on that. I don't know where
he's able to keep these weak-kneed Democrats in line when it comes up to positions that they need to take. With votes, he's able to corral the votes together. So that's number one. He's able to do that. He's able to keep his caucus alive. So, like, prime example, when the government shutdown went down, right, he was able to keep all those weak-kneed, moderate Democrats in line to vote for that shutdown, whereas Chuck Schumer couldn't do that. That's the difference.
Are we really just comparing him to Chuck Schumer to say he's good?
I'm saying yes, because he's able. Think about it.
That's my point, man. We got to do better than that.
Listen to what I'm saying. He's able to keep 214 people in line.
Okay, so I'm going to be able to hear what you're saying. I'm just not going to be able to respond because I have to use the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm listening to what you're saying.
Okay, go ahead. That's the difference. I mean, yes, and for the people that are listening, yes, he's not as smooth as we like to see on TV. He doesn't have bars like Jasmine Crockett, of course, yes. But as far as technical, as far as what he needs, the votes, the strategy, he's on point. So
Keep tapping the screen,
That's the
sharing the
deal.
live,
And
make sure we hit those gift goals.
then here's
Check
another
Hector's
thing
gift
too.
gallery and follow his backup here
I'll
on the
wait till he
panel,
comes
please.
back to bring this point up.
I forget he can't hear us on the YouTube, Kenny.
He would be able to hear you guys on the tube side, but he
I'm not
couldn't
reading
hear
your
you
comments,
from
but
here.
he also is a good fundraiser. He's one of the best. So when you have these different candidates that need money, because if you're in a minority district and you need money to run your campaigns, who do you think gives you that money? Hakeem Jeffries.
He takes APAC money, lots of it.
So he provides that. And he had the right strategy as far as the Epstein files. He had the right strategy as far as the government shutdown and what they're doing next with the government with the health care.
Keep doing all those things, chat. Keep doing all those things. Get us up on the FYP.
So that's how he's doing his job. Now, Chuck Schumer, yes, he needs to go. He couldn't keep those guys in line. He's weak. He bowed down. He doesn't have the political acumen.
Okay. Here's
All
the
right.
problem I have with what you're saying. This is the problem I have with what
Okay.
you're saying.
All
A
right.
lot of the things you mentioned are things that anybody can do. Things that
No,
anyone
not
else
really.
can do, right?
No,
We're
no.
complimenting him specifically. One of the things that you mentioned was, and again, I'm still waiting for a specific answer to my question, but one of the things that you
Mhm.
mentioned was how he's able to fundraise. He's able to fundraise like no other, whatnot. Again, we
Mhm.
have to look at who he's getting this money from and why they're backing him. And it's in many cases because he's dead center, if not center right. So he's able to appeal to some of those people that we would then criticize and say and complain are holding the party backwards, right? So if we want
No,
a
that ain't
new
it.
batch, if we want a better party, I don't think it is a compliment to say he's able to get money from corporate shills who want things to stay the same. I don't think that's a compliment to him. Secondly,
No.
uh,
No.
you
It
said
is.
he's
It
ho-
is.
he's
It is.
keeping
It
people
is.
in line based off of I don't know what. I was looking more so for some specifics like his voting record, some of the things he's been loud about.
Keeps again. Okay, I'll give you an example. Again, listen. He keeps the weak-kneed, white, moderate Democrats in line for votes on big issues. This whole government shutdown, he kept them in line. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't even have the shutdown. If he wouldn't have kept his caucus in line. That's the issue. Yes. If he doesn't keep his caucus in line, we don't have a government shutdown. Do you know why? Because then those weak-kneed moderate Democrats would have voted along with the Republicans.
I watched his speeches. I don't know what one of
See,
his
that's
speeches.
the thing. You're talking about speeches. You're
Okay,
talking
so according
about
to you,
how he looks
this man
on
is
TV.
a powerhouse off screen, but then when it comes to the media, he just looks like trash. Okay, sure, that's fair.
Yes.
That's fair.
The same
I'll
thing
give you
with
that
Nancy
credit.
Pelosi. Did Nancy Pelosi, was she a great speaker on television? When I saw her speak, where you were like, was she
We
like
have
a
record-
miniature Obama?
I really don't like
No.
that comparison. I think with Nancy Pelosi, we have one hell of a record behind her. One
Yes,
hell of
because-
a record behind her. What
Because
is-
she was able to do that when Barack Obama was the president of the United
this is why
States,
I'm asking.
and they had the Senate in the House.
This is why, even without the Senate and the House, she still has a record.
Okay,
This
what
is
did
why
what
I'm
did Pelosi
asking-
do?
No, wait,
What did Pelosi do when Trump was in power and the Democrats were a minority? What did Pelosi
Again, we're
do?
talking about the period that literally started the backing to where people wanted her out, right? Regardless. Of the fact she
No,
had a
we're
record
talking
before
about
that.
no. Go back to Trump's first term. Go back to her first term. Trump's first term, where the Democrats were not in power. What did she do?
Give me.
What
a
did
second.
she
Give
do?
me a second. Let me pull this up.
I'm
Because
telling
more
you, bro.
So again, I referenced specifically.
She impeached him.
That's a good point. The impeachment records. We have the votes in regards to the ACA and its expansion. We
That's
have,
when they were in
we have
power, bro.
women's rights and upholding.
That's when they were in power. That's when the Democrats were
They
in
were able
power
to
in
get
the
it.
House.
So I'm not only talking about what exactly was passed. I'm talking about her
Yes.
voting record broadly, because there are things she still voted on even when they weren't in power that didn't happen, and then she still supported it.
So
And
what's
then near the
the
end of her
King's
term-
voting record? What's the King's voting record that proves that he's a right wing Democrat? Show me his votes. Then.
Literally
They're going
so
on
many
votes.
of the things that we already went over. We talked about APAC, or Fax talked about APAC. You couldn't hear him. Fax mentioned how much money he takes from APAC, which, again, that's a lot of them. But still, like, I'm again, I just need, if anyone knows, I know he was handpicked by Pelosi, and to some degree that's a part of the problem too. But what I want to know specifically is what on his voting record screams he is good where he's at and we can't do better. And I understand a right now position.
I just
that's
explained
fair,
it to you.
but
Keeping the people in line.
that is
That's
a
the job of the
huge-
House leader.
That is a huge feeling that we're just giving to him just because he's a quote unquote been doing it, as if someone else couldn't. In fact, someone else couldn't do it better.
If somebody else could have deal with better than him, he would be voted out as House minority leader.
Have to vote them in.
If somebody else was better, they would vote somebody else in, right?
That's what we're.
His
trying
argument
to
about the
happen.
shutdown.
No. You're trying to primary him from
Go ahead,
Congress.
Fax, again.
I was going to say his argument about the
You're
shutdown
trying
is
to primary
irrelevant
him
because it
from
would have passed the
Congress.
House
What I'm
anyway
telling you is,
because Republicans
as
had the
his
majority.
job as minority
Yes,
leader
Fax wanted
of the
you to let you know
Democrats.
your argument about the shutdown is irrelevant because it would have passed the House anyway.
No. I'm saying if he wouldn't have kept his caucus together, there wouldn't have been a shutdown.
Again, we're looking at things that he did or had to do or would have just happened anyway. I would argue, because just because he's there, you're putting up. This is where I'm confused. You're putting a lot of things on Jeffries, a lot of things that I can't actually substantiate. So what I need to know, and that's why
You've seen it. You've seen it happen.
I'm specifically asking more so of a record of his that can pinpoint me to saying he's the best person to go forward with versus primary.
And I'm explaining to you
and
how.
What you've explained to me is that he kept white people comfortable with their donors. He held the party together on votes that would have happened anyway.
No. See, that's where you're wrong. You're saying would have happened anyway. That's not true.
Because Chuck
That
Schumer,
is not true.
Chuck Schumer more so, actually, I would say more than Hakeem Jeffries. Chuck Schumer was the one who ultimately spearheaded and was the face of the shutdown alongside Jeffries.
No,
Absolutely.
you're wrong.
Absolutely.
You're wrong again
But
and again and again.
He did it.
Okay, back. Let me tell you what happened. Back in February, right when this first started off, right, Akeem kept his conference together, and they voted against.
How?
What do you mean how?
He
convinced his people.
You're saying he did
he
it because
convinced
it
the
happened.
moderate white people.
You're saying he did it because it happened. Please understand
let's
something.
vote
No,
against this.
Hold on. Let's go back to the shutdown.
Do you know there was two
Democrats
bills?
came together when it came to the shutdown because it was
You know
pushing
that
back
happened
against
twice?
this administration and for many of their seats to remain. Not to mention they didn't have shit else to do. What were they supposed to do? Just vote alongside Republicans? Many of them, which we did see happen inevitably, to open back up the government because of pressure after 41 or 43 days. Yes, but did what you're trying to do is say Hakeem Jeffries specifically is the reason why they kept the party together and they were able to hold out that vote so long. I am unaware of any indicator.
Okay, let me educate you.
Jeffries outside of the fact that it happened. As if
No.
Democrats
Let me
had any other
educate you.
choice
Let
at
me
that point.
educate you what happened.
You keep
They
saying
could-
let you
they-
educate me, but I'm looking for more specifics. I'm looking for things.
And
of
I'm trying to
substance.
tell you.
If you repeat
Okay,
yourself again, you're
the
not
first
telling me anything.
appropriations bill, the first time this came across was way back in February, right? Akeem kept his conference together, and they
Oh my
all
God,
voted
this is
against
the
it.
17th time you've said that. This is the
I
17th
know, but
time you said he kept it together, and that's the reason why they voted. You're tying a bunch of things to Jeffries, and I am unaware
Yes, because
of
he
any
is the-
evidence whatsoever to show that Jeffries was the sole reason that people.
He's the leader. He's
respected
the leader.
party.
That
yes,
is the
he's
job
a man
of
in
the
a seat
leader.
doing his job. You're giving him credit
That's
for doing his job as if someone else couldn't. Fucking Chuck
If
Schumer would have done that.
listen, if somebody else couldn't do it, and he get voted out that position. Okay, remember how the Republicans had so many different House speakers? They were trying to vote. Mike Johnson ended up being they voted like so many different times because they kicked out Kevin McCarthy. They tried so many times to get a House speaker because they weren't satisfied with who was leading them in Congress. The Republicans were, and they finally settled on Mike Johnson. If Hakeem was doing so bad, the Democrats could do the same thing and vote on a new speaker. They could do that. They can literally kick out Hakeem tomorrow and be like, yo, we don't want this dude to lead us anymore.
A different process when an election is on the way. And also the reason why that argument falls flat is because Chuck Schumer has been doing a terrible job, and he's been had his seat for some time. I would say Jeffries has a lot more backing and street cred from Pelosi and others. They call this man the Brooklyn Barack, for God's sake. I don't know why, but they did.
Brooklyn what?
Brooklyn Barack.
Hector, this is a vibes argument. Like, this is 100% just a vibes argument.
He does okay speaking. I'm not going to say he's dynamic. Nah, I'm not going to give him that. But I look at what he's doing. Like I said, I'm looking at it from 3,000 feet away. I'm not looking at him being dynamic on television.
I don't know why my mic keeps going down. You guys should be able to hear me now.
I mean, that's my whole deal. You got to look at what is the job of the speaker to get votes on bills. That's the job of the speaker. Keep your caucus together. Because prime example, right? Mike Johnson is failing at being speaker. Why? Because he's had to he's lost Republican votes on this whole Epstein issue. He's losing votes as far as health care subsidies is concerned.
I'm sorry. Do you think the Epstein issue or its handling of it by Jeffries is some type of compliment to him? Do you understand what a layup that is for any Democrat
Mike,
right now to go Trump and
you're not
Epstein?
Listening to me. I said Mike Johnson's losing his position as speaker because.
And what does this have to do with complimenting Jeffries?
I'm explaining to you what the job of a speaker is.
I know
the job of a speaker is to get votes for bills.
Okay, can you sit here? Can you say right now, with your full chest, can you say that Hakeem Jeffries is representing more so Dems, corporate Dems, and the establishment, or the people?
He's the people, because most of those moderate Democrats come from white districts, and this is what white people voted for. And the majority of this country is white people.
If you're in the chat and you're not following Hector's backup is on the panel. Please follow it.
Then you get different type of Democrats. Then you get a different type of Jeffries. That's the issue. It all stems down from them. Again, I told you. I'll give a great example.
Yeah,
we're
going in circles. We're going in circles. I'll tell you what. I do have other people that want to come up, and I more so want to hear what some of the criticisms are. I do appreciate your perspective and opinion. I'm going to move on to them. But thank you for calling in. Take it easy, man.
No problem. All right, bye.
Appreciate you. One of our residents.
Oh my God, I could not do any more of the vibes.
Okay. God. Really quickly. This is now what this live is about, because I'm fucking baffled. I want Hakeem Jeffrey Shields to come up and explain to me what reason would I have to still support him. I understand arguments made by the DSA in regards to keeping him there currently strategically or not using this other guy and stuff like that. But please understand, I view him and Chuck Schumer they're on the same fucking level to me. We can do better. So if I'm misinformed, I have no problem admitting that. But you can't tell me I'm misinformed, and you can't tell me that I'm not giving credit and stuff based off of some of those arguments, because that was a whole lot of vibes and some of them not being good. Again, his donor base? You mean the super PACs and the rich white people want to keep things the same that we're literally advocating against? How is that a compliment to him? That's not. That's really not. When it came to the shutdown, I feel like we had much better faces. Literally. You know what I heard more about from everybody when it came to the shutdown? The town hall that Bernie Sanders and AOC had over Hakeem Jeffries' daily statements. No one gave a fuck about I didn't give a fuck about those. when he was dodging other questions specifically. I have friends, content creators. I don't know if I can say their names. Some of them have videos. You can go find them. Where they held that one event where Hakeem Jeffries was there, and they got to ask him direct questions, and they posted the answers to those questions. They posted his lack of response. They posted his mediocrity, like right in my face. I don't know. I just can't. I understand appearances is more than just appearances. I understand we also have to go on voting records. I said that with Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris wasn't necessarily the greatest speaker. She wasn't terrible, as some people advocate for her, but she wasn't the greatest speaker. But her record shows that she was about the work, 6,000%. So I get the importance of that. But you can't tell me that Kamala Harris and Hakeem Jeffries on the same level, like when it comes to their appearances. You can't tell me that. I'm sorry. No, that's crazy. That's crazy work.
The Mamdani thing to me and his lack of support told me that he's not willing to listen to the left of his party. He's not willing to embrace why are there not more progressives in leadership positions or on committee chairs. But the ranking member from more ranking members on the progressive side from his caucus, he could put them in those positions. Why hasn't he? He's a status quo. He's a corporate Democrat, and I don't want a corporate Democrat as a speaker. No, it's not personal. I just don't want him there.
It's as simple as that. Listen, if there's a position where you give me a corporate Democrat and a GOP nut, yes, I'm going to vote for the corporate Democrat. I'm simply saying when we have options, I'm going to vote on those other options because I think we can do better than Hakeem Jeffries. Again, if anyone has some information that they'd like to share with me about Jeffries, request up in the box. Hit that request button right there, or say something in the chat, and my mods will send you an invite if you have your invites turned on. Or you can call in the number on screen. I need a bit more than he held the party together. I'm sorry. I need a whole lot more than he held the party together because by that logic, I don't know. And I've had this debate again with some of my establishment friends. People saying that Nancy Pelosi shouldn't have stepped down, that she's the most experienced. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I also think that we fall into a very dangerous trap when we're talking about experience. And let me elaborate. Experience is important. People who know how shit works are very much going to be able to do. You can argue that they can do the most good because they understand how to maneuver in that system. But it's also a trap, a dangerous one, because some of those people do not want the same things that we do. Some of those people get comfortable, or some of those people will use their experience as a reason to say this isn't possible, right? Trump and many of his picks are fresh blood. Fresh blood. People do not care about experience as much as we say that they do. They really don't. There's so many people who were able to win their elections off of having little to no experience because they spoke right. Barack Obama did not have experience that we now rely on to say this person is good and this person is not. Everyone tends to forget that he was a fresh new senator. What was he, 2 years? If I'm not mistaken?
Yep, he was a junior senator.
Yeah, 2
Correct.
years into his senator run.
Yep.
And homeboy won the president of the United States. It goes so much further than experience. Experience will trap us. So again, it's important to acknowledge it. It's very important to acknowledge it, but it shouldn't be the only thing. Because how are they going to use that experience for what we want is really the ultimate question. Not just so much that they have it, but how are they going to use it for what we want? If we use experience as the mean Zoran Mamdani, New York City would be on a standstill with fucking, what's his name? Andrew Cuomo. That's the problem with the experience argument. That's the problem that many New York Democrats kept making with him. They said, I understand Mamdani. I'm not saying he's a bad person, but he doesn't have the experience. Vote Cuomo. I don't give a fuck about Cuomo's experience. You think I'm going to go vote for that guy? 7 goddamn allegations against him. The stupid shit he did with the pandemic and trying to erase records of people unalived from nursing homes. Fuck Cuomo. Get out of here. I would have voted for Curtis Sliwa, or Sliwa, I think that's how you pronounce it, over Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo, at least, or now I'm mixing up the people. Curtis Sliwa went, fuck the rich. Curtis Sliwa and Zoran Mamdani agreed on so many things in that regard. In fact, if you guys remember in the final debate that they all had, one of the questions that they asked Cuomo, Mamdani, and Sliwa was, hey, if you guys were to endorse another person, like rank them from yourself at top, whatever, and second and third, what would it be? And Zoran Mamdani himself said Curtis Sliwa. And Curtis Sliwa, I think he didn't answer. And then Andrew Cuomo said Mamdani. Mamdani's inspirational when he speaks. He connects with his audience. Yeah, and this is where we need to do a better job at realizing the importance of people who can speak to folks. The last huge win, I'm not counting 2020. I'm not counting Joe Biden as a huge win. Yes, he had the most recorded votes in presidential history, but we know why. So I don't think that's a compliment to Joe Biden. More people just hated Trump. But the last huge win that we had was Obama, because Obama knew how to speak to people. Folks didn't give a fuck about experience, and he articulated his plans pretty well. And we saw how he tried to implement it outside of the Congress limitations. So that's what we need. That's what we need. That's why we see Mamdani. That's why we see Talarico. That's why we see, what's their name? What's their name who just had the win November 4th?
What state?
Was it Virginia? Something Burger. Something
Vanberger.
Vanberger. I watched a couple clips and interviews from them. I'm like, I didn't think they were crazy, but I don't know. People have to be able to relate to their candidates. They have to be able to relate to their candidates. That's one of the reasons why I love Buttigieg. I love how Buttigieg speaks to people. It's fucking amazing. Absolutely fucking amazing the way he speaks to people. I think he has some issues. I've heard some things, but the way he's able to go into Fox News and like find common ground with some of the most GOP people, that is impressive. That's what's going to appeal to more people. Yeah, I am butchering all their names. But listen, if that shit ain't John, Jack, and Jill or some other shit, I don't I'm gonna butcher their names. I don't know what to tell you. John Ossoff? Yeah, there you go. John Ossoff was a good one. I really like John Ossoff.
Mm-hmm.
Our consultants have become too comfortable. The successful messaging has come from youth. Yeah.
Hey, Hector, real quick, what's Jenny's number? What's Jenny's number?
Jenny's number? Who's Jenny? What?
Hey, Kit. Kit, what's Jenny's number?
What are we talking about?
I just want to make sure if you guys are on your toes. Thank you. Thank that to the chat knows.
Damn it. Steve,
what
now
am
I'm
I
gonna have that
missing
stuck in my
here?
head for weeks. Why you gotta be like that?
Sorry.
What am I missing here?
You'll know. We'll get the shot.
You're a youngin', Hector. It's okay.
Diabolical. Yeah, I see y'all's messages now on the tube side. I got that fixed. Thank you so much. Jenny, I'll change your number. I don't get it either, Shada. I don't know. 8675. Now I'm gonna Google it. Now I'm gonna find out.
It's okay. Yeah, you're gonna find out. Now. I'm sorry ahead of time.
Kit's gonna hate me forever. I'm sorry, Fred.
867.
You know what? Yeah. Anyways, love you, Steve.
Tommy Two Tone. It's a song.
It's not only a song, it's the song, Hector. It's the song.
Okay, well, I can't play it because Tube's going to flag me. I'll look into this later. Any case, it's been about 3 hours since we've been live. We'll give it a couple more minutes. If you have a question, if you have anything to ask me specifically, a question about candidates, a question about your local elections, so on and so forth, you may request up in the box, whether you're a liberal, Democrat, Marxist, anarchist. Actually, I want to avoid you guys today. Trump supporter, MAGA, Yahtzee. Request up in the box. You're the demographic of people that I mostly kind of almost want to have a conversation with. If you're over on the tube side, you may call the number on the screen, 737-295-5321. That's 737-295-5321. Also, guys, we're not even at 2/3 of our goal. If you want to support the platform, the best ways to do so is going to be the links in the link tree in the bio. We are live randomly throughout the week and every single Saturday at 3 p.m. CST. I'm doing more so of this push to talk to a broader audience instead of hyper-focusing on MAGA. So I appreciate all of you if you can help me in this journey. Those of you who want to support the platform financially, you may use the links in the bio, Cash App, PayPal, and Venmo, or you may throw some gifts on here, coins if you want to. I don't care for the TikTok coins. I just set them because the algorithm respects them. But yeah.
Here's a question for you both. I have a question for you both. I've seen the chat ask this question too, and people are saying Vance versus Newsom, who you got? Do you both think JD Vance is the Republican nominee? Because I don't.
I don't think so. I think he is desperately trying to position himself as such to some degree. I don't think it's landing super well. I think personally that, and I can actually see this. I think the 2020 election is going to be super interesting. I can see a Republican using Trump's failures against Vance and then pushing for something maybe even more radical or center. I can see that happening. I don't know. I don't think JD Vance is the guy. He was barely the guy when he was picked as the vice presidential pick. I don't remember a lot of people caring for him at all. He got a lot of recognition after the vice presidential debate. Then after that, he kind of fell by the wayside. In fact, Republicans themselves tried to eat him alive because he was a never Trump guy. To reference Trump as Hitler. So, oh, and I'll also say I think he has more of a leg up because of this weird Erica Kirk dynamic thing. I guess because people like her, and then now he's trying to be the next Kirk. I guess. I still don't think he has. I don't think he has the stuff.
I actually completely disagree with you, Hector. I think that Vance he knows how to speak to people. So whereas Trumpers already are fine with word salad and incoherent concepts of plans, Vance knows how the system works and he knows how to use it. And I don't like to just pathologize, so I'm throwing that out there before I say this. The way he conducts himself and speaks to people is damn near textbook narcissist. He knows how to convince people of things. He knows how to speak. He has all of these things that Trump doesn't. And then he's also worse in his ideals. If we want to get real technical, he's more terrifying than Trump is. And I think that the base is going to get behind whoever Trump says. And I've actually seen plenty of MAGA saying, Vance 2028. Plenty of them. And honestly, I'm more afraid of him because he knows how to speak and he knows how to get people reeled in and listen to him. And he's already, as far as they're concerned, part of their cult because he's the VP. Oh.
I think you make some good points there. We'll get at that in a bit.
Call from
Jacob.
Jacob, you're on the line. Got a question for me? Hey, Jacob? Jacob, can you hear us?
He's playing the song for you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Is that the song in the background? The 8, 6, 7, whatever?
Sure is, baby. Sure is.
I think I've heard this song before.
Steve, I swear to God.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Okay, my last point on what I was saying, because I'm just going to ignore the nonsense Steve started, is the fact that Vance also has the backing of the right-wing think tank. He has the Heritage Foundation's backing. He is their pick. And because he has that is also what makes him even more dangerous.
See, I hear that, but I think about the political operation, and I believe if you read the Vanity Fair article, the only person that Susie Wiles did not throw under the bus was Marco Rubio. In fact, she separated him from everybody else, and I think when she leaves the White House, because I think she will this year, she's going to be behind him to get him elected. And I think Rubio's got a bigger chance than Vance because I think the America First movement and MAGA have been divided, and without a unified MAGA, a Republican can't win. So I think that the corporate donors, especially the massive pocketed billionaires that are not Peter Thiel, want some sanity again.
So I agree with that. I will also give credit to what Kit's saying. I think oftentimes when I think about who I think would be good or be good not, I'm ignoring the fact that the MAGA base is stupid. And I know a lot of people who specifically talk about J.D. Vance from a perspective of we like him because he's young. That's also super interesting to me. They say that he's young and that he would help push a lot of what Trump couldn't do forward. There's a lot of people who view his administration, if he were to win, as carrying on what Trump wants, although I think he would actually make some shifts. So that's fair. And then I would also say, I guess to them, he is the Heritage Foundation pick. I do think his relationship with Erica Kirk and how he's been now trying to spearhead Turning Point USA will help him. I still personally have a hard time believing that he really has a chance in hell. But I could be wrong.
Because without MAGA, like I mean, when Trump goes, MAGA goes. Because I understand what you're saying regarding the Heritage Foundation, but it's the MAGA voter, right? Ultimately, and their loyalty to Trump is like nothing any of us have ever seen before. And he doesn't. I don't think JD Vance carries the same level of loyalty.
I don't think it's the same level of loyalty, but don't you think that he is, because he's the vice president, because he speaks at these events along with Trump, even with the negative things that even Trump says about him, as far as MAGA is concerned, he's one of them. He is the understudy to their leader.
Maybe, but think about the margins, right? What was it, 1%, 1.7% in the last election? Does JD Vance bring in more voters?
That's where I would say I don't think he brings in more.
You know what I mean, Kit? It's like he's not there's no charisma. He doesn't rally the crowds like Trump does.
God bless you.
I didn't set that gif.
Sorry, I personally think that's only because he hasn't fully had the chance yet, honestly.
That's fair.
Okay.
That's fair.
But oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I think to be fair, to your credit, Kit, like I said, the vice presidential debate between him and Tim Walz, I think I saw a lot of people change their tune on him. I saw a lot more MAGA get more comfortable with him because they thought he did a good job. And I can even say I was watching that debate and was like, you fucking snake. He really snaked his way throughout that damn debate. So I do think if given a full platform and voice and his own team, and he kind of like separates from Trump, I do think if he's given a little bit of time to cook, he could surprise us. Not necessarily in a good way, but I can agree with that. I guess for me, it's just more so I agree with facts in the sense of I think the MAGA movement will inevitably die or significantly be hindered once Trump is done because no one can carry it like he did. Their obsession with him doesn't super broadly apply to other people. Hell, the fact that he has his wife, his wife and kids alone, people are using against him. So there's that. Fax, did you have anything else before I get the East here?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Got you. East meet. I'm just gonna call you East. Got a question for me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Because your mic suddenly went really low. I just want to point out something outside of all this conversation we've been having in the chat as well.
You do sound very, very muffled. It's getting difficult to make out what you're saying.
Can you hear me better now?
A little bit.
A little bit? Okay. I was just going to point out that there's a woman on here who's called the Knitting Cult Lady, and she basically has written a couple of books recently about cults and cult following, and she came out of a cult and she was in the military and blah, blah, blah. You can go look her up. She's got a very extensive background in history. And she pointed out something that people in the chat are saying, and also you guys are discussing. Once you lose the cult,
God bless you,
person that has the power over the people, the second in line, the cult falls apart. That's the only point I'm gonna make. That's her expertise. She's quite well versed in this area, and there's been a couple of other people who have been, I guess, got out of cults as well, who aren't as experienced and educated as she is, because she also has a specific degree in cult study of human behavior in this way. That once the cult leader who, whipped up all the frenzy is out of the picture, the cult will collapse. And Vance doesn't have the charisma, and I'm not saying that in a good way. He doesn't have the bad charisma or good charisma, whichever way you want to look at it, to step into Trump's shoes. Now, they may take a whole different route because the Heritage Foundation may have a different plan, but as far as the MAGA cult part of it, they're never going to go for another candidate.
You got you. I think I got the gist of what you're saying. It was kind of difficult to make it out. There's like a lot of background and echo noise happening there. But yeah, I agree with your sentiment. I do personally feel that way. But yeah, he could surprise us. We'll see. But I appreciate you coming up.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. That was rough,
Yeah,
guys.
she's
I put the
talking about
volume.
she's talking about Daniela Young. She's a friend of mine. She's been on my live a few times, the knitting cult lady, and she has talked about that MAGA, is without question it does operate like a cult.
Thank you, Andy.
And as soon as the leader is no longer the leader, then the cult tends to just
Thank you, Darren.
organically just end. So we'll see.
We will see. I more so want to hope that you're right, Facts, over Kit. I hope you're right over Kit. Crazy Catwoman, got a question for me?
Actually, no. I just wanted to point out, because of the worries over Vance, the worse that Trump gets, especially with the Epstein stuff, and the harder it becomes to defend him in any sensical way, the more it looks like he isn't going to make it the whole 3 additional years. And if he's looking like he's going to do the whole country in, and the MAGA people are like, we just are America first. We can't get behind that, but we're America first, because it's part of their identity. The cult itself, the Trumpism, is their identity. Trump is just the figurehead, and it's the feeling that it gives them. So the more radical he gets, where he can't be defended, the more often Vance has an opportunity to look like a hero when he steps in to keep things contained, or helps the old sick man from embarrassing himself into his elderly aging. He can actually step up and make them look legitimate. And a lot of those old people that are part of MAGA are looking for that out. They want to be seen as serious, not just easily dismissed.
What up, Ari?
And again, it's part of their identity. Vance has been put there by Thiel, and Thiel has positioned himself, along with a whole lot of the tech bro stuff, into our government at every department. They're looking to put AI in there. They're looking to have a lot of control over the logistics of our government.
Thank you for the follows.
Vance has been placed there. So he hasn't been placed there just to be thrown to the side. He's not a placeholder. And yeah, I don't think he's very charismatic, but the other day I caught him leaning full into his Yahtzee, saying some straight up jargon, and very obviously proud about it.
Oh, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore?
I guess not.
Yeah, I didn't get that memo. Did every other porcelain person get this memo that apparently we had to apologize for that? Because I was unaware.
But the whole Yahtzee thing has become the Trumpism. Trumpism in that radical form is becoming less popular because of his nonsense that nobody can make sense of. But the Yahtzee thing is no different than any of their other bigotry that was always there. They will lean into that if that looks like it's the mighty party that has, the power. Because to them, it's always been might is right. And that's what Trump gives them, is that response is might is right, because he tells them that their bigotry is right, that they are the cool kids. So he doesn't actually have to work that hard to take over Trump's position, because the way things are going, Trumpism is the thing they want to hold on to. Trump is clearly not going to last much longer the way his health is going. So they are going to be desperate for a figurehead.
Trumpism is 36% popular right now, though. So I hear what you're saying, and that's real. But
because it's awkward right now.
Well, it's beyond awkward. It's diabolical and it's evil.
Right.
And
for us, right? But for MAGA, where the only thing they care about is their identity and being given credit as being the cool kids.
Right,
So,
but again, 36% popularity, and the Republican Party at Trump is his approval amongst Republicans has dropped below 90%. So that's really bad.
yeah, and we know Republicans always see things through.
I just had a light bulb that I need to share that actually it terrifies me. I don't know why I'm referring to it as a light bulb, but it was right now the biggest thing going on with Trump is some maggots are actually removing head from sphincter because of the e-files, right? Some of them are like, oh, this is actually gross. Some very, like, not enough, but some. So Vance doesn't have that. Vance doesn't have that black mark on his record.
But protecting him, he does have that.
I was just about to say.
That's true. That's true.
Hasn't he been right alongside that stuff? Hold on, I'm curious. I'm looking for recent statements that he may have made in regards to the files, or better, he may not have said anything at all.
I was going to say MAGA, the last 2 weeks that I've seen, a lot of them have been trying to backpedal and saying that it's not Trump himself, it's what he stands for, what his policies are, blah, blah, blah. It's not the embarrassing man, in other words. And a lot of them have started trying to explain MAGA as America First rather than Make America Great Again. America First is the I guess the words that the Yahtzees use, right? Back when they were, still popular here, and now they're becoming popular again. And Nicholas Fuentes and his Groypers go by America First. That's their messaging. So you can already see that the two are capable of blending.
Oh, I don't know if there's a lot of blend. I mean, Fuentes has been despised by some prominent MAGA voices and vice versa. That's where I was talking earlier about the fracturing. That's why I think it's significant that Susie Wiles, who was a well-respected, highly regarded political operative on the right, did what she did in that Vanity Fair interview by separating Marco Rubio from everybody else in that party. I think it was a very calculated political decision.
Right. I think we make a mistake when we view things as ourselves from an intellectual angle versus being in the cult.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Again, but there's still strategy involved in trying to win elections. And again, just because I'm a political strategy wonk, there are certain things that I see, not only the division, not only the fracturing within MAGA, but the clear separation between the Marjorie Taylor Greene America First movement and the MAGA movement. Republicans, they can't afford to lose voters. They have nowhere to go. They can't run on policy. They've got nothing.
No, they don't win unless they cheat.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly my point.
Once MAGA don't have their anchor point with their icon, they will want a replacement, and they will look for the might equals right party that most closely identifies to them. And the Republicans were just as bad before Trump came along. They just weren't as loud or provocative about it. Now, cult people are going to be thinking, well, we don't want to give up our identities. That would make us, accountable and bad people. So who are they going to align with?
I'm not seeing anything recent.
I just had this other thought. Okay. And I just had this other thought, like that MAGA has, yes, Trump is their like top leader, right? But they have their branches, like the Maha branch, who is all the RFK people, right? We had the tech bros that were Elon Musk fans, and but at the end of the day, they're still MAGA. Yeah. So like all of these far right ideologues are combining under MAGA, and they do have already more than one quasi leader, even if there's only one true figurehead. So it's not like they couldn't have another one, is my concern. And I do not have the expertise of Danielle Young, obviously. I've just watched a lot of cult documentaries because I'm odd. And I just keep thinking of the Keep Sweet, Pray Obey documentary on Netflix, and how like when the leader lost or passed away, one of his sons took over, right? Like that's how they keep going.
Yep.
Really quickly, guys, we're gonna wrap up at 200K likes, which we should have been at forever ago. So do me a favor, free me, tap the screen till we get up to 200K likes. In the meantime, between time, you may do all the other good things as well. Anyone would like to support the platform, you may hit up the links in the bio to knock down this goal. We're about halfway through, but yeah, tap up the screen. Let's get up to 200K likes, and then I gotta go on about my merry way. I gotta go out. But yeah, okay. I see all of your points. I was sitting here doing some research on JD Vance's recent comments. The latest one I can see was from August specifically. He was on a podcast and denied the shit again and affirmed his loyalty to Trump. So from what I'm seeing, he's staying awfully quiet about this, which I think to some degree can serve him. Because if it was one of those things where he's just loudly going, oh yeah, it's bullshit, it's this and that, blah, 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 then I can see that being used against him come 2028. But now what I can see him falling back on, and to some degree I think he's doing this intentionally, he can fall back on, yes, I didn't say much because I was very unsatisfied behind the scenes. I was doing a lot behind the scenes to get this happening, and I realized that this whole thing was corrupt and blah, blah. Like, he's going to squeal his way out of this shit. That's what I can see happening.
I just have one more thing to say, and it's regarding Jeffries. If he is, I can't tell you for certain because I actually haven't heard a lot from him, but if he is managing to keep votes whipped,
God bless you.
he's doing one part of his job. The other part is he's a speaker. Speakers speak. He has to know how to get in front of a camera and speak, because that's how he conveys the message for the Congress. That means he's going to have to build a personality and not be afraid to say challenging things in front of the press and not be worried about looking civil or, looking like, the gentle person who's smart but dispassionate. Pelosi could get away with some of that. She had a strong presence. She was a power operator. Jeffries is still the trainee, put it that way. And he doesn't have that kind of authority. He doesn't have that kind of allure. Now, before Pelosi quit from the speaker position, she was all over the press, standing up to Trump. She was the voice standing up to Trump in legitimate ways. Like, you remember the picture that they took of her standing up over the conference table and pointing at him and saying, all roads lead to Russia, to Putin with you. And he was pointing at Trump. That will go down in history. That's an iconic moment, and that's an iconic picture. Jeffries doesn't have one of those yet. So he might have learned some tricks from Pelosi, but he still has to develop that other part. And if he doesn't, he can't do the job, because that is a major part of his job.
So many Democrats have, like you referenced, their moments, right? Cory Booker really stood out to a lot of people with the filibuster protest, essentially, where he's now the longest recorded one. He passed Ted Cruz in 2015. We had, obviously, Jasmine Crockett for several different moments. We have even some of, what's his name? Mark Kelly. We have some of AOC. We have plenty of Bernie Sanders, so on and so forth. Like, these people have those moments, and they're not in these big speaking positions necessarily unless they're taking it upon themselves. Jeffries has none of that. Like, I can't think of one.
No personality whatsoever. None.
And that's where I was confused, and I was hoping someone can give me some clarification on that. But I would then say the fact that they can't is testimony in and of itself. But I appreciate you coming up. Crazy Catwoman, appreciate you and your perspective. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thanks.
All right, guys. 19.
I don't care about the personality. I mean, I really don't care about the personality. I think we've all been conditioned to have big personalities running government. I want boring politics. I just want an effective leader who doesn't take AIPAC money, who prioritizes the things that most people that I believe the future of America that I want, which is education reform, Citizens United, healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. I don't give a shit about his personality. I just want him to stand for the things that I care about.
Oh, we're in agreement there. When I speak more so on the media personality, is looking at across the party the people who get the most recognition, the people who Trump will handpick and nitpick at personally on his Truth Socials and stuff. Those are the people that often get the presence to, in some cases, I would say, demand votes. So that's more so the place where I'm coming from, where it's like, okay, this candidate may be great, but no one knows who the hell they are. Versus this candidate actually has demands the presence and has the appearance of it, which unfortunately is something that the average American actually pays way too much attention to over policies. But yes, I very much want to bring bring our political process back to when we just talked about stuff. We weren't throwing jabs at people's blackness. We weren't bringing up folks' sleeping records. We weren't trying to get these gotcha moments and viral clips of cats and dogs. I really want to make politics as boring as possible again.
Yes.
Because there's some... Ooh, I have a hot take. I have a really hot take. So there's two things that I want. One of the two. Either Either we get more people involved in our political process from all branches of the aisle to vote on what is better for the country, regardless of what name is behind what, Democrat or Republican, or we get back to a small portion of super educated people voting on behalf of what's good for everyone. One or the other, okay? Either we get more people involved, more people educated, we vote for the betterment of the country, or we bring things back to one stupid viral clip that someone watched of Trump saying some bullshit didn't incite someone who doesn't know shit about fuck to go vote for him. I'm cool with both. I prefer the more people voting option. But if we just go back to just smart people voting, I'm cool with that too.
Yeah. I mean, media literacy, obviously, start teaching critical thinking again so that we have a more informed electorate. Sure.
Yeah. Right now everything's so monetized, man.
I mean, let's be real. We need more people to know what Jenny's number is. If we could figure that out, we'd be totally fine.
Steve just over here trying to get me to crash out.
I'm gonna listen to this damn song the second I get offline. See all the hypes, but I know what it is. Once I heard the little bits of it, I've heard it before, but I never paid that much attention to it. Who the hell is Jenny? Damn it! I really think Trump has changed wow. I really think Trump has changed the trajectory for decades to come. Oh, 6,000%. That man set us back by a few decades. Absolutely. Because he normalized some of the things that at the bare minimum, even if we didn't obviously erase it, that were kept in the shadows. There was a time where these people, these racists, these misogynists, all these different things, you saw every now and then a viral clip of somebody lashing out in public. But they're becoming more prominent because it's been normalized by the sitting head of the country. It's been normalized. And that's not going to be going away anytime soon, unfortunately. It's really not.
And I mean,
sorry, Kate, go ahead.
I just want to make a quick point on that. Isn't it interesting that they're always talking about my community and the queer community and how we're gonna brainwash people and normalize stuff and yada yada and make kids be a certain way or whatever. But actively, everything that they're doing that catches media attention actually is doing things like inciting violence, inciting hate crimes, inciting taking away human rights, inciting the active dehumanization of so many groups of people, to the point that you talk about people being double tapped in the sea and people are just it's just taking people's lives for no reason. They've gotten people so apathetic and so desensitized. That to me is the actual brainwashing, is desensitizing people, taking away humanity, taking away empathy, sympathy, compassion. And that's something that they are truly doing.
Yeah, you guys have seen
it's always.
You guys have seen me both talk. That's okay. You guys have both seen me talk about this, and how if there's a silver lining to any of this, I think people are paying attention to things more now, perhaps, than ever before. People not understanding, a government shutdown and what does it mean and how does it apply and what gets impacted and what appropriations bills are and how my vote can really matter. I'm always going to try to see the glass half full. So I think if one thing that this administration has done is really reminded people that, listen, this shit is real. My rights could be taken away tomorrow if I'm not paying attention. At least that's my hope. That's my hope. To get more people to come out and vote, to get more people to realize that, to get more people just to involve themselves in their communities under the do something spirit, volunteer more, stand up for more communities, pay attention to more what's going on, run for office, that kind of shit. That's my hope.
And it shouldn't be that way, right? It shouldn't have taken someone like Trump to make people pay attention to politics. But it happened, and it's better than nothing, I guess.
Slight random point, and I don't remember if I'm right on the country was, but I believe it was Norway. They have an active class from, I believe, when you're the age of 6 all the way up to 16. They have an empathy class. They actively take the time to teach their youth empathy. And I know we're far off from anything that actually helps any average American in this country right now, but that's something I wish that we would implement here, is actively teaching empathy.
Too bad they think
Preach.
empathy is woke.
I think it might be Finland, but one of those Scandinavian countries. You're absolutely right, Kit. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's like the karmic balance in the universe. Us empaths have to do more heavy lifting now because there's just disregard for humanity, and it's just so horrible to see every day.
Let's see.
It is, and it's wearing, and like this goes way back to earlier when that one person on the panel was talking about organizing and becoming a community. Absolutely, but when everyone is emotionally, spiritually drained and beaten down and just looking around going, how can people be so cruel and harmful, and you expect those people that are just feeling like everything is hopeless to somehow rally. I don't get it. I don't understand.
I'm looking up civics studies in school. It's under social studies, which a lot of people try to opt out of. I was trying to get a good standard here for how we're doing. So for what I'm seeing, for the most part, most states have it, but it's like 6 months. Colorado and what was the other state? Idaho. They have one that's designated, and it's taught through year-long courses. I think a year should be the minimum. Civics used to be standard in school. Now only 7 states require a full year.
Yeah.
That's
when I was in
insane.
school, back in the cave life with hieroglyphics, we used to have model Congress, and you could represent your school and go to the state house in your state, and then you go to DC if you were selected to go and represent your state in DC. It became this civics. It was exciting. We talked about current events all the time, and there's just been a lack of basic civics education, how our government functions, all that kind of shit. And I think if people had a general idea that the government can actually work on behalf of the people and how and why, I do believe there are really honorable public servants out there that do want to serve. But back to Kit's point, the lack of empathy, because people you can't gain empathy for something unless you understand. I'm never going to understand what it's like to be either one of you, but I could try to gain understanding of your plight and then offer empathy in support of it, right?
6,000%. I was trying to find we played that one Talarico video earlier. I was trying to find the main one I was looking for, but I did appreciate, and this is something I've said we need to do a lot more. If we're telling people to vote, it's good to, and you touched on this facts, and we talked about this in the last live we did, starting with their values, more so party, and then following up with another thing I think we can all do a better job at, following up with, oh, you care about this? This is something that was done to move the needle forward in that. Because oftentimes if you do some actual research, you can find a law that was passed, even if it wasn't federally, maybe it was on a local level in a particular city, oftentimes more Democratic leaning. You can find an initiative that was pushed by a local community, maybe sponsored by a Democrat, or you can even find a bill that may have even passed the House, but didn't get to the Senate or didn't get out of the committee, sponsored by a Democrat. So like, I think it's really good to go, oh, that thing you care about, look at the one side that's actually been trying. Versus just saying vote, 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 which I know we don't do, but I think a lot of people do. W's in the chat to Toybox Bree for the $10 Venmo. Thank you so much, Toybox Bree. Can we get some W's in the chat to Bree? W's in the chat to Bree. I appreciate your support. And I did see that we did hit the like goal. Thank you guys so much for 200K. It only took y'all about 4 fucking hours. Jesus Christ, do better. But on that note, I'm going to do one final call. If anyone would like to request up and share something, you may. And if not, I'm going to start with final thoughts, starting with you, Kit. Kit may be busy.
How long am I waiting for people to request up, or am I just going?
Yeah, I would just say go. If someone requests, they request.
Okay.
It, then.
All right. If you have the spoons and you are not afraid to leave your doorstep, absolutely get involved in your local community. Know that there are ways to get involved just online. There are so many different people who are out there trying to make change, and just supporting their platforms is huge. There is no one lane for activism. For a lot of us, it's making it through the day. It's just finding some kind of joy, some happiness, something that keeps us going. Don't think you have to be on the front lines. Don't think that because you're not doing X, Y, and Z that you're not enough, because you are. You absolutely are. And I think that a lot of us feel that there's like some threshold of what we need to be doing in order to be relevant, and that's just not true. What you can do is your lane, whether it's calling people, whether it's just talking online, whether it is out there going and door knocking and bringing up issues to people or starting petitions on a local level. Whatever you can manage, if it's just making it through the day, matters. Absolutely matters. Empathy matters. I love you all. This administration is trash, and we need to get back to community and stop with this hyper-individualism bullshit. It's dragging us down. That's what I got.
6,000%. Thank you very much, Kit, for sticking around. Appreciate you. Fax, my man, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Final thoughts.
I've got no notes other than to say this: do something, because there's always something to do. And Jenny, don't change your number. Hector, I love you, brother. Thanks for having me. See you later.
Love you, man. Thank you so much for coming up. Guys, if you're not following Fax, make sure you do so. Fantastic creator. Hosts lives Monday through Fridays in the mornings. He doesn't do the debates or anything like that unless it's afterwards, where he just chooses to stress himself out going into MAGA panels. But follow him for a very good show. A very good show. My final thoughts. Look, man. I was a non-voter, okay? And I made all the same arguments and all the same excuses, some of which we heard today, what you guys have been hearing from some time, what we'll hear in the future. And what ultimately got me here where I am is that not voting did nothing for me. If we are going to say that voting does nothing, then what does not voting do? Right? So my whole thing is going, hey, I looked at the numbers election after election after election, and I see the complaints and I see the crying, and I'm just like, this isn't really getting us anywhere, right? I am aligned myself with Talarico and the rest, people who say we have no idea what this process can actually do for us if more of us get involved. It's a numbers issue, right? It's a numbers issue. I don't know any other way to fight the what's the word I'm looking for? The rich and powerful minority, other than combating it with a majority. So we just need the numbers. Every single mission you can look across the board, we just need the numbers. Apathy does nothing. Does absolutely, yes, East, apathy. Apathy does nothing. Nothing whatsoever. But is your name Hector? What? Yes, my name is Hector. It doesn't serve us. It doesn't serve us. I'm simply telling you to try a different way. And I know the response, well, the different way would be this because we've been doing the same way with the different. No, we haven't. Not really. Not really. Even what he said when it comes to harm reduction, there's an argument I can make about that. The black community is the most loud and vocal and strongest advocates, not only for ourselves but other fucking communities. We've never really let up on the party. So it's funny now we're seeing this broad criticism from white people and stuff that are unsatisfied. That's been black people this whole time, to be clear. As a collective, that's been black people this whole time. So we just need the backing of others, really or truly. We just need more than us speaking. We just need more than us being loud about it, and then we can see some real numbers, because it's very easy to dismiss the alleged 13% of the population. We need more people to stop crying, to stop whining, but to get involved. And then if more of us get involved, if we have the numbers, if we vote on the right things, if we hold them accountable and they still fail us, by all means, I'll be alongside you with the pitchfork, ready to throw it wherever I need to throw it. Until then, you can't get me to be comfortable with telling folks to go war against the government, to go burn down the system and stuff. Because guess what? It's my black ass and other marginalized communities. We get harmed the most. Of all these decisions, we get fucked over the most. So, with that being said, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Thank you guys so much. Like I said, I'm trying to push more of these lives. So everyone who showed up here today, helped me in doing so. Trying to have more discussions, more conversations going, not just with the MAGA base, but just with anyone in general. And hopefully we can move forward towards a government and candidates that reflect the people versus corporate interests versus their wallets versus super PACs, so on and so forth. If you are in the state of Texas, please pay very close attention to our Senate elections. I've said it again. I'll say it another time. Whether you vote for Tallarico or Crockett, Texas will be better off. Whichever one aligns with you, cool. Go ahead and vote for them. But don't vote for Tallarico because you have unpacked racism. We won't get into it today. If you're in Florida, I talked about this earlier on Santana's Live. I think Florida may have a chance to go blue. It's a very slim one, extremely slim one. But pay close attention to your Democratic governors. I think now is a better time, more than ever, to utilize some of the dissatisfaction we're seeing from centrists and some MAGA with Trump. So pay close attention to some of the candidates that are running right now. Very close attention to them. Anyways, on that note, we're going to go ahead and do a raid. We're going to go ahead and do a raid. Let's see who's live. Who do you guys think we should raid? Let's see who's live. Let's see. Brett Cross. Brett Cross is live. Give me a second. I'll put up his username. So we're going to go ahead and raid him. And if you're over on the Tube side, Brett Cross does dual stream on Tube now. So his username over there is Cross0524. It is different here. There we go. Here we go. Hold on. Okay. Let me put it up here for you. This is his username. There we go. So over here on the Tickety Talk side, let's go ahead and let's raid Brett Cross. His username is Cross333, but if you search Brett Cross, he will be the only one you find alongside his backups. And I'll put it on the Tube side, 0524. All right, so yeah, it's different on Tube than it is on here. So over on the TikTok side, I have his username up there. When you go into his live, make sure that you say Hectua Raid. Hectua Raid. It's a little joke. It's a little joke with us. Hectua Raid. Do it for one of two reasons. One, let him know the love and support is coming from me. And two, to stroke my ego. Hectua Raid, Cross333 or Brett Cross. I appreciate every last one of you. We will be live maybe tomorrow or Monday. I haven't decided yet. But y'all will see me very soon. Peace. Hector Raid, Brett Cross. All right. Those of you on the Tube side, I have put his username down in the comments. It is pinned Cross0524. That's Cross0524. Make sure you go over to his live and show him some love. Bam! Taro got the link. Bam! Taro got the link. Thank you so much, Taro. W's to my mods over here. I appreciate everyone who tuned in today, and I will catch y'all later.